Chapter 26. The assassin attacked, leaving behind countless afterimages. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and killing intent. Qin Zheng didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he sat on top of the mountain and watched the tigers fight. He wanted to see if Yi Qinghan's combat strength was as terrifying as Sun Fizi had said. However, he was also accumulating power. Once Yi Qinghan was defeated, he would immediately make a move. After all, he hadn't obtained the technique to create the purple light wine yet. Yi Qinghan looked at the assassin rushing towards him. Instead of being angry, he laughed. Holding his heavy frenzied blade, his movements were as fast as lightning. Overlapping waves slash. With a roar, Yi Qinghan's blade had already arrived in front of the assassin. It fiercely clashed with the dagger, causing the assassin to be heavily injured and retreat a few steps. Before he could recover, Yi Qinghan had already attacked with his second slash. Boom boom boom, one slash after another, each slash stronger than the last. This was the power of the overlapping wave slash. The second slash was 10 times stronger than the second slash, and the third slash was 10 times stronger than the second slash. When the attack reached the 10th slash, it was enough to kill a Paradise Realm warrior. Grade 4 martial skill. Overlapping wave slash. However, Yi Qinghan's current True Yuan and cultivation level were not enough to support his fourth slash. The True Yuan in his Qi Si flowed out along the heavy frenzied blade. The heavy frenzied blade was like a bottomless pit, desperately absorbing True Yuan. The boundless True Yuan in his Qi Si was instantly consumed. After the third slash, the assassin's dagger broke. The palm of his hand shattered, and his blood dyed the backyard red. His 7 orifices were ruptured, and blood flowed freely. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. Qin Zheng sucked in a breath of cold air. The members of the Blood Fiends were all top-notch within the same cultivation level. Although this Blood Fiend was only at the initial stage of the Blood Ignition realm, he was strong enough to assassinate a mid-stage Blood Ignition realm warrior. If he was lucky, he might even be able to kill a peak-stage Blood Ignition realm warrior. However, in front of Yi Qinghan, he was as weak as a child. 12 styles of leaving hands. Yi Qinghan felt that he did not have enough strength to attack with the fourth slash. He directly changed his moves. The changes between the two secret techniques were extremely natural, without any dissonance, as if they were one secret technique. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After slashing out more than 10 times, the Blood Fiend assassin fell to the ground. More than 10 horrifying wounds appeared on his chest. Every slash cut deep into his bone marrow. The Blood Fiend assassin couldn't dodge a single slash. Swish, sheathing his saber, Yi Qinghan was incomparably calm. It was as if he had just killed a wild beast. He did not feel the slightest bit of excitement. He also did not understand how great of a shock Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi had felt when he killed someone of a higher realm. Mr. Sun, please help me deal with the corpse? After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he saw that the backyard had been destroyed. His room had also been destroyed by the shockwaves, making it impossible for anyone to live in it. He then said to Qin Zheng, "We will leave tonight and go to Jiangning County. Pretend that you don't know what happened tonight. I don't want to be famous for the time being." "Alright, Mr. Yi is indeed a genius. It's just that I wonder if this stacking waves slash secret technique is for sale? I'm willing to buy it at a high price." Qin Zheng's eyes were filled with shock. Although he didn't know the level of this stacking wave slash, he could tell how powerful it was. There were only a few level 4 martial techniques in the entire Owl Falling Star. As long as an unfamiliar level 4 martial technique appeared, it could possibly alarm all the great empires on the planet. Yi Qinghan also knew that it was best not to leak this martial technique. He shook his head and refused. "My master's ultimate technique is not to be leaked." "Master? I wonder which grotto heaven expert Mr. Yi is under? Perhaps he has some relationship with my Spirit Treasures Pavilion." Qin Zheng was shocked. He believed that someone like Yi Qinghan must have a terrifying existence behind him. At the very least, that person must be at the Grotto Heaven realm. He was even more vigilant towards Yi Qinghan and did not want to offend him. Yi Qinghan did not explain further. It was not a bad choice to let Qin Zheng misunderstand. At least he would not dare to act recklessly, and the Spirit Treasures Pavilion would not use their power to oppress him. Mother, Meng Shi, follow me to Jiangning County. Give up on the things here and buy new ones when we reach Jiangning County. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Go to Jiangning County? Mother is not going. You and Meng Shi are not allowed to go either. Wang Shi frowned. Jiangning County was Situ Yunxiao's territory. Wouldn't they be courting death if they went there? Wang Xian, do you still remember me, Qin Zheng? Qin Zheng looked at the aged Wang Shi and sighed. The number one beauty of Jiangning County had actually become like this. Situ Yunxiao was really a waste of a treasure. Mr. Qin, you don't know my family's situation. If we go to Jiangning County now, won't we anger Prince Situ? Please don't harm us. Wang Shi gathered her courage and looked directly at Qin Zheng as she said in a low voice. With me, Qin Zheng, Situ Yunxiao would not dare to kill his way into the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Qin Zheng's face was full of disdain. He looked at Wang Xian's appearance and sneered in his heart. He then said temptingly, Wang Xian, don't you want to go back to Broken Sword Peak to see your father? Sigh, why should I go back and cause trouble for him? As long as he can live peacefully in his old age, I can pray every day. Wang Shi shook her head in despair. Although she really wanted to go back and take a look, she did not want to implicate the Broken Sword Peak. Mother, I have made up my mind. I promise you that no one will hurt a single hair on Meng Shi's head. Come with me now. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone with a will that could collapse the heavens. He did not allow anyone to reject him. The aura that was emitted from his body made Qin Zheng take a step back. Wang Shi murmured. Looking at the light in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she could only sigh and agree. Sun Fizi took the assassin's corpse and threw it at the blood-bone peak. He returned to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion and cleaned it up. He then stood at the side and waited for Qin Zheng's instructions. Let's go to Jiangning County. Qin Zheng took the lead and stepped into the distance, heading straight for Jiangning County. Yi Qinghan summoned the huge tiger and placed Wang Shi and Yi Mengxi on its back. The huge tiger was obedient and did not resist. It walked steadily as it was afraid of scaring the old man and Yi Mengxi. The parrot was incomparably excited. It stood on the huge tiger's head and shouted, "This divine bird has finally left this broken place. I'm going to play in the city." This was the first time little Meng Shi had seen such a huge rank 1 tiger. She stroked its fur and rolled around on its back. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the tiger's back and closed his eyes to meditate. He had swallowed a large amount of stone milk essence and his strength had increased by quite a bit. Qin Zheng took the lead. He stepped on the snow without leaving a trace and was silent in the wind. Sun Fizi followed closely behind, vigilant of their surroundings. They were all experts and were extremely fast. The huge tiger's speed was even faster than Sun Fizi's. Yi Qinghan was afraid that Wang Shi would not be able to withstand the ravaging cold wind due to her old age, so he took the initiative to sit in front. He used his body and the zhenqi that he emitted to block the cold wind. The snow could not block their path. They passed by at least 10 villages in one night. If it were not for Qin Zheng leading them, it would have been very difficult to reach Jiangning County in this kind of environment. This was also the reason why the 3 Blood Ignition Realm experts sent by Situ Yunxiao were lost. The world was vast and boundless, connecting the ends of the world. In some places, the accumulated snow had submerged entire villages. The villagers relied on dried meat and rations to survive the cold. After traveling for half a night, a huge ancient city appeared in front of them. It gave off an ancient aura, and the 3 words Jiangning County emitted a powerful aura that could capture one's soul. Ancient buildings that towered into the clouds were protected by formations. Even from 100 miles away, one could feel the fluctuations of the laws. It was awe-inspiring. Jiangning County was one of the larger cities in the Azure Sun Kingdom. However, in Yi Qinghan's opinion, such a city could at most be considered a small and remote village. There was not even a single Grotto Heaven Realm expert here. A single expert would be able to destroy Jiangning County. However, Yi Mengxi's reaction was a little exaggerated. Her small mouth was slightly open, making her look like a country bumpkin entering the city. Wang Shi's eyes were also filled with indescribable emotions and tears. Yi Qinghan could feel Wang Shi's sadness. The corner of his mouth twitched and a cold smile shot out a murderous intent. He was an extremely protective person. Those that he approved of could not be bullied. Otherwise, only death awaited. Mother, tomorrow I will ask Mr. Qin to escort you and Mengshi to Broken Sword Peak to take a look. From today onwards, you can do whatever you want. You don't need to consider others. Situ Yunxiao won't be able to control you. Yi Qinghan burst out with an imposing aura. He stood on top of the giant tiger and looked down at Jiangning County with disdain. Really? Can I go see your grandfather? Wang Shi's eyes lit up and were filled with anticipation. Of course, no one will dare to stop you, Yi Qinghan said confidently. The sky was dusky. Dawn had just passed. A wisp of afterglow appeared on the horizon and dyed the clouds red. It was as mournful as blood, hinting that a storm was coming. Qin Zheng took out his identity card and the gates of Jiangning County immediately opened. Even the giant tiger didn't dare to check and directly let them in. However, Yi Qinghan, Wang Shi, and Yi Mingxi on top of the giant tiger shocked the city guards of Jiangning County. They all lowered their heads in disgust. An early-stage blood ignition expert who looked like the leader of the guards directly left the city walls and headed straight for the county king's manor. As soon as they entered Jiangning County, an aura of vicissitudes greeted them. All kinds of luxurious ancient buildings exuded a dignified aura. Jiangning County was covered in white snow in the wee hours of the morning. It was like a wonderland, magnificent and magnificent. Qin Zheng arrogantly thought that Yi Qinghan would be stunned by the aura of this place. He couldn't help but turn his head and ask, "How is Jiangning County?" Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. His smile was demonic and arrogant. This kind of feeling was like a beggar showing off his wealth to a millionaire with a steamed bun. The millionaire wouldn't throw out a large amount of money to humiliate the beggar. He would only proudly smile. "It's okay," Yi Qinghan indifferently replied. Yi Qinghan remained unperturbed. He was like a bottomless abyss, making people unable to understand him. Qin Zheng's heart became more and more cautious. Mr. Yi, to be accepted as a disciple by a grotto heaven expert, you are indeed extraordinary. This old man is ashamed. Qin Zheng awkwardly smiled and pointed to the center of the city. Follow me to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion in Jiangning County is even safer than the County King's Manor. Mr. Yi, you can rest assured that no one will harm your mother and sister. That's good. However, I would like to ask Mr. Qin to take us to the Broken Sword Peak after daybreak. I hope that they will be able to see the Broken Sword Peak's Peak Lord and not be rejected at the door. Yi Qinghan looked straight at Qin Zheng. The determination in his eyes was not a discussion, but a command. Qin Zheng was stunned. He wanted him to be a bodyguard? But could he refuse? Obviously not. No problem. When we reach Jiangning County, I will be the host. Let me make the arrangements. Qin Zheng pretended to be dignified and said, Today, if Yi Qinghan brought Wang Shi and Yi Mingxi to the Sky Sword sect alone, he would definitely be rejected. He was well aware of this. Due to the pressure from the County King's Manor, the Sky Sword sect had been suppressing the Broken Sword Peak. They also didn't allow Wang Shi to return to visit her family and completely cut off all ties with Wang Xian. As a result, the Broken Sword Peak became a peak that was about to close down. There were only 2 or 3 loyal disciples left the Broken Sword Peak. The rest had all left the Broken Sword Peak and joined other peaks. Chapter 27. The sky had just brightened, and the gentle sunlight shone on the earth, causing the white snow to emit a silver glow. Yi Qinghan settled the giant tiger down and brought Yi Mingxi and Wang Shi to the Sky Sword sect to test the attitude of the Sky Sword sect and his so-called grandfather. Qin Zheng followed behind with a group of people secretly protecting them. Now that Yi Qinghan was their big client, they couldn't let their guard down. The Sky Sword sect was located on a spiritual mountain more than 10 miles away from the city. It occupied 8 mountains with dense spiritual energy and formed a huge second-grade sect. It was equivalent to a duke's mansion, but the duke's mansion had the backing of the Azure Sun Kingdom, while the Sky Sword sect didn't. The Sky Sword sect was protected by a faintly discernible spiritual array that emitted spiritual energy fluctuations. This array consumed one mid-grade spirit crystal a day, so the Sky Sword sect didn't activate it during safe periods. After all, spirit crystals were scarce. Spirit crystals were like transparent stones filled with spiritual energy. The higher the grade, the more transparent the spirit crystal was and the more abundant the spiritual energy it contained. A low-grade spirit crystal was worth 300 gold taels. Mid-grade spirit crystals were worth 5,000 gold taels. As for high-grade spirit crystals, there was no market for them. Ordinary cultivators couldn't exchange spirit crystals for gold. Spirit crystals were the only currency used by cultivators. If a first-grade sect discovered a spirit crystal vein, it could develop into a second-grade sect within 3 years, and a third-grade sect within 10 years. However, spirit crystal veins weren't that easy to discover. There were only 2 small spirit crystal veins in the entire kingdom, and both were controlled by the royal family of Prince Green Sunday. Yi Qinghan brought the 2 closer to the Sky Sword sect. Wang Shi was even more frightened. Her legs were trembling, and she couldn't stand steadily. The former #1 beauty of Jiangning County was now in such dire straits. It was a pity. Even if she regained her looks with the face restoration pill, her cultivation from back then would never return. Mother, don't be afraid. It's just the Sky Sword sect. Even if I have to fight today, I'll fight my way into the Broken Sword Peak. If grandfather doesn't want to see you, you can also resolve one of your worries. Yi Qinghan held Wang Shi's aged hand and said in a deep voice, "Don't make things too difficult for your grandfather. If it wasn't for him, your father and I would have died long ago. We wouldn't have been able to escape. As for what the other peaks of the Sky Sword sect say, we'll just have to endure it. Don't get into a conflict with them." Yi Qinghan nodded. He didn't want to make things too difficult for the Wang clan. After all, the Wang clan still had deep-rooted feelings for the Heavenly Sword sect. On the Sky Sword sect's martial practice field, several hundred disciples at the 7th or 8th layer of the body refinement realm were practicing their swordsmanship. Their movements were neat and uniform. The foundation of a second-grade sect was clearly displayed. Any random young disciple would be able to sweep through a small place like Myriad Mountain Town. The Heavenly Sword sect's sword-bearing elder, Chen Changxing, nodded in satisfaction as he watched his disciple bitterly cultivating. He paced back and forth, correcting his disciples' mistakes. That's right. Everyone, cultivate well. The Heavenly Sword sect's 3-year competition is about to begin. As long as you can become an elite disciple, you can enter the Heavenly Sword sect's paradise to cultivate for 3 months. Everyone, cherish this opportunity. Chen Changxing said in a low voice. What? Can all the elite disciples cultivate in the Blessed Enclave for 3 months this year? 3 months. That's equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for 3 years. I've heard that any disciple who can walk out of the Blessed Enclave alive will definitely be able to reach the Blood Ignition realm within a year. The Heavenly Sword sect was in an uproar. The spirit chi in the Blessed Enclave was more than 10 times that of the outside world. Although it was very dangerous, there were opportunities everywhere. Finding ancient treasures or spirit herbs was equivalent to 10 years of bitter cultivation. Every disciple of a large sect wanted to enter their own blessed enclave to train. That's right. This year, the Heavenly Sword sect is preparing to accept 12 elite disciples. Any disciple who can enter the elite ranking will be placed in an important position by the Heavenly Sword sect. There's still a month before the elite ranking examination begins. Once the examination ends, the blessed enclave will open. Seize this opportunity and you'll all be at the top. Chen Changxing encouraged. Yes, Lord Elder. We definitely won't disappoint Lord Elder. Everyone hugged their swords and roared. They were abnormally excited. He, of the 10 elites, senior brother Lin Hong will definitely be one of them. In addition to the 8 senior brothers from the main peaks and the senior sister from Jade Maiden Peak, we're actually all fighting for 3 spots. However, one of the spots is mine. A thin and weak-looking boy proudly said. Yuan Hong, you think too highly of yourself. You're only at the early stage of the 8th layer of body refinement and your void-piercing sword art is only at the 6th layer. There are plenty of people stronger than you. Do you have the confidence to enter the top 12? That's right. Maybe I, Kwang Hu, can enter the elite ranking. There were only 12 spots in the elite ranking and every spot was extremely precious. Everyone wanted to fight for it. Yuan Hong stood out and everyone ridiculed him, not giving him any face. The youth called Yuan Hong's expression changed and he angrily glared at the crowd. Who said there were only 3 spots? There are 4 spots. Is there anyone from Broken Sword Peak who can obtain the elite ranking? Maybe they'll be disbanded this year. A handsome and feminine youth walked out from the crowd with a face full of ridicule. Xian Fei's second senior is right. Broken Sword Peak is about to be disbanded and their senior is only at the 7th layer of body refinement. How can he obtain the elite ranking? As long as no elite ranking appears this year, Broken Sword Peak will only exist in name. It's better to disband and rebuild. Once Xian Fei walked out, a dozen or so young disciples surrounded him. Their faces were full of flattery and they were not arrogant at all. Xian Fei, the second senior of the main peak, Heaven's Sword Peak. His cultivation level was at the 9th layer of body refinement. He was only second to the senior of the other main peaks. Of course, Broken Sword Peak was excluded, because in these years, Broken Sword Peak had already existed in name. If it weren't for a few loyal disciples guarding there, Broken Sword Peak would have been disbanded a long time ago. Xian Fei was the one who targeted Broken Sword Peak the most. In his opinion, he was completely qualified to be the senior of a main peak. But a 7th layer of body refinement trash from Broken Sword Peak occupied one of the spots. He was unwilling to accept this and every 2 to 3 days, he would pick on the disciples of Broken Sword Peak. This year there will be 13 elites. One of them will be elected as the senior of the 8 peaks. Everyone do your best. Chen Changxing had a smile on his face. Seeing everyone's high morale, he felt a little proud. But before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by someone. Report. 3 people came to the foot of the mountain. A 16 or 17-year-old youth, a 5 or 6-year-old girl, and a 50 or 60-year-old woman. They said they came to visit the mountain. Elder, should we let them in? A young disciple respectfully ran to the practice field. When he saw Chen Changxing, he immediately bowed and asked. Being interrupted, Chen Changxing's expression was a little bad. He asked impatiently, did they say where they came from? My dignified second-grade sect is not a place that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can visit. They only said their surname is Yi. They said they are related to Broken Sword Peak. The disciple guarding the gate quickly said, Surname Yi? Broken Sword Peak? A 50 or 60-year-old woman, a 16 or 17-year-old youth, and a 5 or 6-year-old girl. Chen Changxing frowned. A person flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but say angrily, could it be that Trash's bastard and Wang Xiannu of the traitor? Once Chen Changxing thought of Yi Laoqi and Wang Xiannu, his mood instantly sank. He flicked his sleeves and walked towards the foot of Broken Sword Peak. When the disciples saw this, they knew there would be a good show to watch. They all followed closely behind, ready to watch a good show. When the group arrived at the foot of the mountain, Chen Changxing looked at Wang Shi and Yi Qinghan. His eyes revealed a trace of killing intent and ferocity. It is indeed you and his bastard. If you dare to return to Heaven's Sword Sect, I will clean up the sect today. Chen Changxing coldly reprimanded. Elder Chen, my child and I did not come with ill intentions. We just wanted to see my father. If we can't go to Heaven's Sword Sect, please inform him. Wang Shi quickly said, Hee, your skin is really thick. You still dare to come and see Peak Master Wang Xian? It's good that you didn't anger him to death. Chen Changxing sneered. He waved his hand and said to the disciples behind him, Men, capture these 3 people and escort them to the Duke's mansion. Let the Duke deal with them. Pa? A white light flashed and a claw mark appeared on Chen Changxing's dignified face. It was dripping with blood and a piece of flesh was almost torn off. The parrot on Yi Qinghan's shoulder raised its little claw and lightly blew on it. It shook its head and said, Such thick skin. This divine bird actually didn't tear it apart. Chen Changxing was stunned. He reached out and touched his burning face. His hand was covered in blood. He couldn't help but fly into a rage. His killing intent soared, and he stared at Yi Qinghan and the parrot on his shoulder. You dared to let your lowly bird sneak attack me. Like master, like pet. Both of you are so lowly. Today, this old man will skin you and this rotten bird alive. Another resounding slap, shocking the heavens and earth and making ghosts and gods weep. Chen Changsheng spun around a few times in place. His head was dizzy and he almost fainted from this slap. This is only a warning. If you dare to speak rudely again, I will take your life. Yi Qinghan said coldly to Chen Changsheng. It was as if he hadn't moved at all. His figure moved and he returned to his original position. Chen Changsheng was completely stunned. He had been slapped in the face again, and one of them was actually a palm-sized bird. The anger in his heart was so dense that it almost materialized. The disciples of Heaven's Sword Sect were also stunned. Although the sword-bearing elder was only an outer sect elder, his cultivation wasn't bad. He was at least at the middle stage of the blood ignition realm. However, he had been slapped twice in a row. They were somewhat unable to accept it. Shua. In order to curry favor with Chen Changsheng, 20 or so young disciples instantly surrounded Yi Qinghan and the other two. Xian Fei was at the front, pointing his sword at Yi Qinghan. You dare to sneak attack an elder of Heaven's Sword Sect? You're courting death. Kneel down and kowtow to me and admit your wrongs. Today, this young master will chop off your arms and legs and give you a quick death. Xian Fei's arrogance soared to the heavens. He didn't put Yi Qinghan in his eyes at all. Moreover, they were at the foot of Heaven's Sword Sect's mountain and there were so many fellow disciples by his side. So what if Yi Qinghan was strong? For more than 10 years, no one has dared to hit this old man. You are the first. The cold flames in Chen Changsheng's eyes almost rushed out of his eyes. He stared at Yi Qinghan, his killing intent was self-evident. He laughed coldly and cruelly. Are you blind? I am the first one to hit you. You're really despicable. Have you forgotten so quickly? The parrot scolded insolently. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up, revealing a trace of ridicule. He was also amused by the parrot. Little Meng Shi was even more so, giggling. Chen Changsheng's face immediately turned the color of a pig's liver, alternating between green and purple. His whole body trembled in anger. His finger trembled as he pointed at the parrot on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, wishing he could skin it. Chapter 28. Chen Changsheng was so angry that he almost spat out blood. The Sky Sword Sect disciples' faces twitched. Seeing the parrot like this, they wanted to laugh but didn't dare. Their facial muscles were almost twitching. Xian Fei, take them down. Kill anyone who dares to resist. Chen Changsheng coldly reprimanded. Hearing this, Xian Fei sneered. Using numbers to bully the weak, this was his favorite thing to do. Go. Cripple this bastard. Xian Fei ordered and more than 10 disciples pounced. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and turned into a phantom as he attacked madly in the crowd. His fists, elbows, knees, and legs all became the sharpest weapons. Wherever he went, people would fall. Bang. Crack. Every punch penetrated flesh and the sound of bones breaking was crisp. A large number of Sky Sword Sect disciples fell at the foot of the mountain, wailing and rolling on the ground. Ouch! Xian Fei's pupils contracted and he stabbed his sword towards Yi Qinghan. His sword was like a rainbow and he actually wanted to kill Yi Qinghan directly. A sword aura destroyed everything in its path and in the blink of an eye, it reached Yi Qinghan's throat. However, Yi Qinghan directly stretched out his hand to grab the sword. Xian Fei was overjoyed and secretly shouted, "Good chance!" But his excited expression didn't last for a breath. He was shocked because Yi Qinghan's 2 fingers pinched the tip of the sword. No matter how much force he exerted, he couldn't stab it in half an inch. He couldn't even pull it back. Bang! The iron sword was actually broken by Yi Qinghan. Their bodies crossed each other and Yi Qinghan's broken sword pierced into Xian Fei's shoulder blade. Puchi! Xian Fei let out a blood-curdling scream, alerting Chen Changsheng. Raising his eyes, he discovered that Yi Qinghan had kicked Xian Fei's calf, directly breaking it. Xian Fei's body was thrown forward. Just as he was about to reach Yi Qinghan's shoulder, Yi Qinghan's elbow struck Xian Fei's throat. Pooh! Xian Fei coughed out a mouthful of essence blood. His throat was hit so hard that he couldn't breathe. His head heavily hit a rock and his eyes rolled back. He fainted. The 8th level of body refinement, second only to the senior brothers of each peak, couldn't even last one move from Yi Qinghan. This caused the hundreds of disciples to tremble. Yi Qinghan was incomparably indifferent. He slightly raised his eyes to look at Chen Changsheng and released an invincible aura that forced Chen Changsheng to continuously retreat. The other disciples were even worse off. They looked at Yi Qinghan in shock, their eyes filled with respect and fear. The entire foot of the mountain was strangely quiet. Even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Didn't they say that this bastard can't cultivate? How can he be so powerful? Everyone was confused and looked at Yi Qinghan. This can't be true. How can I lose to this bastard? One move, only one move. Xian Fei only had this thought before he fainted. Now, he didn't even have the chance to think about it. Chen Changsheng's eyes became serious. He carefully observed Yi Qinghan's move. Only then did he remember that he didn't see how Yi Qinghan attacked. There's true essence. He's at the blood ignition realm? Impossible, he's only 16 years old. A few days ago, it was said that he couldn't cultivate and was trash. Could it be that Yi Qinghan is a genius? Chen Changsheng secretly said. But it doesn't matter if he's a genius or not. Once the Duke knows that he's a genius, he'll definitely kill him. If I give him a favor, once Shattering Sword Peak dissolves and reorganizes, he'll definitely support me as the Peak Master. Chen Changsheng thought for a moment. He wasn't angry, but was happy. He looked at Yi Qinghan as if he was looking at prey. This idiot, did he become stupid after being hit by me? He's still laughing. The parrot was speechless and looked down on him. A divine bird actually has the ability to suppress others' intelligence. As expected of a divine bird. Little Meng, she took a step forward and echoed the parrot. Cough cough, I don't have this ability. It's his intelligence that has always been problematic. This divine bird is realistic and never greedy. The parrot ridiculed. Yi Qinghan looked at the pair of clowns indifferently. He didn't stop Meng Shi and the parrot from messing around. This Chen Changsheng made him feel very disgusted. Elder Chen, are you going to notify Shattering Sword Peak or should I charge up myself? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Little bastard, it seems like your family is very scheming. You actually know how to play dumb to deceive the Duke and the Heaven Sword sect. Now that you've exposed yourself, do you think you're invincible and no one in Jiangning County can deal with you? Chen Changsheng sneered. Don't talk shit again or I'll kill you. Now, I'll give you one chance. Either you inform Broken Sword Peak or get lost. I don't like to repeat myself. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone with a terrifying light and killing intent. Chen Changsheng was stunned by Yi Qinghan's gaze. He actually didn't dare to say any more unpleasant words. He was secretly furious. Bastard, I was actually scared by a 16-year-old child. How can I raise my head in front of the disciples of the Heaven's Sword sect in the future? Chen Changsheng clenched his fist and stepped towards Yi Qinghan. He was after all a veteran of the Blood Ignition realm and the sword-bearing elder of a second-rank sect. Once he released his aura, it immediately attracted the cheers of many disciples. Elder is mighty. Several hundred disciples roared in unison, shaking the forest and alerting many of the experts of the Heaven Sword sect. A few of the head disciples of the younger generation all walked out. Every one of them had a cultivation that wasn't inferior to the 9th layer of the body refinement realm. Furthermore, they had opened up their chi seas very valiantly. They could be considered to be the cream of the crop amongst their peers. Yi Qinghan gripped the hilt of his blade and stepped towards the mountain peak. His aura erupted and collided with Chen Changsheng's aura. Neither side was willing to back down. Chen Changsheng was secretly shocked. He continuously increased his aura, but his legs were as heavy as lead. Not only was he unable to shake off Yi Qinghan's advancing steps, he himself was even pushed back. The two left footprints on the stone floor at the foot of the mountain. Their footprints were a ghastly sight. Yi Qinghan seemed to be young, but the cold light emitted from his eyes caused Chen Changsheng, who was nearly 100 years old, to feel terrified. This Chen Changxing is at the middle stage of the blood ignition realm. I'm afraid I won't be able to defeat him with just my aura. Now is also not the time to completely fall out with the Heaven's Sword sect, Yi Qinghan thought to himself. His aura burst forth, causing his long hair to flutter as he gradually closed in on Chen Changxing. Chen Changxing was even more furious. If he retreated now, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the future. However, he didn't want to face Yi Qinghan head-on because he couldn't see through Yi Qinghan. If there was a way out for him now, he would roll down without hesitation. It seems you want to block my path. Yi Qinghan pulled out his heavy berserk blade and faintly questioned. Chen Changxing didn't know how to reply. More and more people from the Heaven's Sword sect gathered and they were all looking at him. On the Broken Sword Peak, a lonely old man stood proudly at the peak like a peerless treasure sword. He overlooked the vast mountains, his clothes fluttering in the wind and emitting a powerful aura. Master, I heard that 3 people came to the foot of the mountain. It seems to be senior sister Xian Er and her 2 children. They said they came to visit the Broken Sword Peak, but they were stopped by Elder Chen. They have already started fighting. A vigorous middle-aged man hurriedly climbed up the mountain and respectfully reported. What? The old man's eyes suddenly widened and a cold light shot out. He turned around and transformed into a sharp sword, charging towards the foot of the mountain. It seemed like he still cared about his only daughter. Chen Changxing, you dare to harm my daughter's family? This old man will slaughter you. An angry shout resounded through the heavens and earth, reverberating within the Heaven's Sword sect. It was so deafening that it felt like it was going to collapse. A black figure descended from the sky, his aura soaring to the heavens. Chen Changxing gave a muffled groan, his face deathly pale. He continuously retreated over 10 steps before stabilizing himself. Looking at the Broken Sword Peak's peak Lord Wang Xufei, his heart couldn't help but sink. Peak Lord Wang, what are you doing? As an outer sect elder, am I not allowed to enforce the law? Chen Changxing angrily asked. Wang Xufei's aura was like a ferocious tiger. He seemed to be in his twilight years, but in reality his qi and blood were flourishing. He was about to enter the Bitter Sea stage and was the backbone of the Heaven's Sword sect. Otherwise, the Heaven's Sword sect would have long abandoned the Broken Sword Peak. Enforce the law? Do you think this old man is easy to bully? Or do you really think there's no one in my Broken Sword Peak? My daughter, grandson and granddaughter have returned from outside. What right do you have to stop them? And what right do you have to intervene? Today, you must give me an explanation, or else I won't let you off. Wang Xufei indifferently questioned. Peak Lord Wang, back then, you personally expelled Wang Xian'er and Yi Chen from the Broken Sword Peak and even said that you would cut off all ties. Chen Changxing was flustered and exasperated. He didn't expect Wang Xufei to criticize him like this. Back then, I was too anxious and made a huge mistake. But I only have one daughter in my life. How can I not acknowledge her? My grandson and granddaughter are even more innocent. Whoever dares to bully them is bullying me. Wang Xufei was dejected. Looking at Yi Qinghan, the old Wang Shi and the young Yi Mingxi, his face was filled with guilt and heartache. Xian Er, father knows that he was wrong all these years. Only after you left did I understand that if I were to spend the rest of my life alone, I might as well agree to your marriage. Even if I offended the Duke, at most I would just die. Back then, I was too cowardly and caused you to suffer. From today onwards, return to the Broken Sword Peak. Wang Xufei said in a deep voice. Wait, junior brother Wang, this matter isn't decided by you. Back then, when Wang Xian'er and Yi Chen were expelled from the Sky Sword sect, it was agreed upon by everyone. Now that you want to return and implicate the Sky Sword sect, it's impossible. Another figure appeared. His aura wasn't any weaker than Wang Xufei's. He was the peak lord of the Bamboo Sword Peak, Zhu Yun. He was at the peak of the Blood Ignition realm and was half a step into the Bitter Sea realm. My Fire Sword Peak also doesn't agree. The Fire Sword Peak Lord, Huiyun Luo, was dressed in a scarlet-red robe and said in a deep voice, My Jade Maiden Peak agreed to Wang Xian'er's return, but does that mean that women don't have the right to choose their own husband? Cowering like this is an insult to the dignity of the Sky Sword sect. Is it a man or not? An extremely beautiful young woman, Master Yu, walked over gracefully. Behind her, there were a few young female disciples with peerless beauty. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. The Peak Lords of the Sky Sword Peak and the Sky Sword sect, Jian-Ao, and the other 8 Peak Lords had all appeared. They looked at Yi Qinghan and the others with an indifferent expression. Most of them weren't willing to offend the Duke for the sake of the Broken Sword Peak. Jade Maiden Peak firmly supported Wang Xian heir. Of course, it was also for their own benefit. If women didn't even have the right to choose their own husband and had to listen to the arrangements of the Sky Sword sect, wouldn't they become soulless vassals? Yi Qinghan looked at the attitude of the crowd indifferently. He didn't have any emotional fluctuations. He only wanted to see the attitude of this so-called grandfather of his. Chapter 29. Wang Shufei's attitude didn't disappoint Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was a very protective person. As long as it was his family, he wouldn't allow anyone to bully them. The words endure and retreat were ingrained in his bones. My Shattering Sword Peak has its own choice. It is not up to you to decide what kind of disciple I accept. I have had enough of these years. If you continue to flatter the king's mansion, I will not frown. However, don't drag me along. Xian'er has been tortured all these years. Yi Qin has already fallen. It is time for them to be punished. Wang Shufei said coldly. Wang Shi pursed her lips and did not say anything. She was very excited to receive Wang Shufei's approval today. She whispered, Brother Yi Qin, did you hear that? Father has approved of us. Yi Qinghan patted Wang Shi's shoulder and waited for the Sky Sword sect's decision. If he was not satisfied, he would definitely kill them all until they satisfied him and his mother. You alone do not have the final say in this matter. Before they entered the sect, Yi Qinghan injured more than 10 disciples from each peak. He is an enemy of the Sky Sword sect. Wang Xian'er and Yi Mingxi can return, but Yi Qinghan cannot. He must accept the punishment of the Sky Sword sect. Jian-Ao snorted and stepped out of the crowd. He looked at Yi Qinghan with a face full of killing intent. Obviously, he wanted to kill Yi Qinghan to appease Sidu Yunxiao. Ha! Yi Qinghan was not angry. Instead, he laughed and asked disdainfully, Sect Master Jian, how are you going to punish me? You attacked and killed my sect's disciples. According to the Sky Sword sect's laws, you should be sentenced to death. However, since you did not kill anyone and are the descendant of an old friend, your Qi will be destroyed and you will never be able to cultivate again as a punishment, Jian-Ao said coldly. Destroy my Qi? That will depend on whether your Sky Sword sect has the ability to do so. Yi Qinghan said indifferently as he gently touched the hilt of his saber. Then you will see if I have the ability to do so. Jian-Ao waved his hand and his Zhenyuan blotted out the sky, enveloping a radius of several li. It transformed into a giant hand that blotted out the sky and grabbed at Yi Qinghan, not giving him any chance to dodge. A 4-star bitter sea stage expert was even stronger than Qin Zheng. He instantly took control of the situation, causing the people of the Sky Sword sect to be in awe. Swish! Yi Qinghan's body seemed to have suddenly risen to a height of 1,000 feet as he swung his saber at the giant palm. Boom! The heavy berserk blade was incomparably sharp and invincible. But after colliding with the giant palm condensed from true essence didn't dissipate. Instead, it released a monstrous flame that burned the void. Whoosh, 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 Yi Qinghan took a few steps back, twisted his body, and unleashed a force of nearly 50,000 kilograms, fiercely counterattacking Jian-Ao's huge palm. Bang! The gigantic palm shattered as it was reduced to nothingness by the saber strike. However, Yi Qinghan did not have it easy either. He flew dozens of meters back and slammed into an ancient tree, causing it to shatter. Jian-Ao couldn't help but be shocked. He clearly didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be able to block 30% of his strength. Since he had already offended him, he might as well kill him. Xiao Jian-Ao formed a seal with his palms, condensing qi into a sword. The sharp sword qi easily destroyed everything, causing the surrounding disciples of the Sky Sword sect to pale. Converging sword style. Sect master actually used his famous unique skill. It seems like he wants to kill him in one strike. This idiot is even more stupid than his father. He actually dares to fight against sect master. Chen Changxing's mouth revealed a trace of ridicule and disdain. He looked at Yi Qinghan as if he was looking at a dead man. Sect master. This old man is loyal to the Sky Sword sect. Could it be that I can't exchange for the life of my grandson? Wang Shufei angrily asked. Wang Shi rushed forward, prepared to help Yi Qinghan block the sword, but she was stopped by the parrot. It didn't want Wang Shi to disturb Yi Qinghan's heart. This kid is so stubborn. Sooner or later, he'll cause trouble and implicate the Sky Sword sect. Today, I'll end him early. Jian Ao's fingertips condensed into a 3 feet long sword. It sparkled with light and was not inferior to a real second-grade spiritual weapon. Jian Ao didn't give anyone a chance to speak. He directly controlled the energy sword to attack Yi Qinghan. The energy sword was as fast as lightning, ignoring space and time. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Yi Qinghan. Heavy berserk god-slaying style. Boom boom boom, Yi Qinghan's qi surged. His energy was like a torrential sea that broke through a dam. It gathered on the heavy berserk blade. His long robe and black hair danced wildly. All the bones in his body creaked. Slash. With a furious roar, Yi Qinghan was like a wild beast that had been released from its cage. He fiercely slammed into Jian Ao's body. Boom boom boom. The energy sword constantly vibrated, breaking Yi Qinghan's hand. His skin exploded and his bones broke. He was bathed in a river of blood, but he didn't have the slightest intention of retreating. Yi Qinghan's cultivation level and physical body were still too weak. His energy was far from enough to support him to use the true heavy berserk blade technique. His opponent was at the blood ignition realm, but against someone at the bitter sea realm, it was like an arm blocking a car. Shing shing shing, the rocks under Yi Qinghan's feet constantly crumbled. His body slightly leaned forward, firmly blocking Jian Ao's killing blow. Hiss hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at Yi Qinghan as if they were looking at a monster. Jian Ao's sword had obviously used more than half of his strength. Even Wang Shufei wouldn't dare to say that he could block it. But it was blocked by a 16-year-old kid. Rip, Yi Qinghan's veins popped out. His energy had been completely depleted. He began to desperately absorb the energy hidden in his blood and bones. His battle robe was directly shattered, revealing a perfect body of battle. A body that was born for battle. The girls of Jade Maiden Peak narrowed their eyes, staring at Yi Qinghan. They clenched their fists, as if they were in the same situation. They were desperately cheering for Yi Qinghan in their hearts. Yi Qinghan roared. His body moved again, exploding with the last of his energy. He crazily shook the heavy berserk blade. The blade and sword collided, causing a deafening sound. Wung wung wung. The energy sword was after all not a second-grade spirit weapon. It couldn't withstand the impact of the heavy berserk blade. In a moment, the energy sword collapsed. Yi Qinghan also retreated more than 10 steps. His face was deathly pale, without any color. Gulp gulp. After drinking a few mouthfuls of stone essence, his body was like a bottomless pit, absorbing energy. It flowed through his limbs and bones, but it did not fill his qi. After drinking a few more mouthfuls, his face finally regained some color. Jian Ao was shocked. He was stunned for a full 2 breaths. But these 2 breaths of time were enough for Yi Qinghan to recover his battle strength. After all, he was the soul of a martial revered. Spiritual energy turned into true energy, tempering the body. Fighting to the death with a bitter sea stage martial artist, his progress was extremely fast. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a cold smile. He allowed the blood to flow. Every step he took was 10 meters, like an immortal. Jian Ao was clearly high up, but he had a feeling that he was being looked down on. Not bad, you have some strength. Yi Qinghan's voice was low, as if he was not injured at all. But he knew that if the opponent's attack was 30% stronger, it would definitely have injured his foundation. True yuan flowed through his body, emitting a faint pressure that intimidated everyone. Everyone was stunned. Wang Shufei didn't expect his grandson to have such terrifying battle prowess. At this moment, he wanted to save Yi Qinghan's life even more. Sovereign, Qinghan's battle prowess is definitely a blessing to our Sky Sword sect. I implore the sect master to show mercy and allow him to make amends. Wang Shufei took a step forward and stood between Yi Qinghan and Jian Ao. Yi Qinghan took the chance to drink a large mouthful of stone milk essence, desperately tempering his injured body. True energy flowed through his body, instantly doubling his strength. Hong hong hong, Yi Qinghan's strength was rapidly rising. His cultivation level was also rising. He directly rushed to the peak of the 9th level of the body refinement realm. More and more true energy gathered. If before Yi Qinghan only had a drop of true energy, now he definitely had a bowl of true energy. His battle strength would definitely increase by more than 10 times. Jian Ao flew into a rage out of humiliation. He had not been able to kill a child in 2 moves. This made him feel very humiliated. His killing intent became stronger and stronger, and he was even more terrified of Yi Qinghan's battle strength. What a terrifying little brat. Since I have already offended him today, I cannot let him leave alive. Otherwise, in at most 3 years, he will grow to my level. Jian Ao quickly decided in his heart. He did not care whether the Sky Sword sect could soar or not, he only cared about his own future. Sovereign, please reconsider. If such a genius is killed, it will be a loss to our sect. Yushirchia cupped her fists and said in a deep voice. Jian Ao's brows sank, his mood becoming worse. He could not give face to Wang Shufei, but he had to give face to Yushirchia. Not only had she entered the Bitter Sea stage, she also had many followers. Of the 8 peaks, half of them liked Yushirchia. The other peak masters more or less had their own thoughts. Her words carried a lot of weight. Peak master, this Yi Qinghan is a promising talent. He is only at the 9th level of the body refinement realm, but he can refine his true energy into true energy. He can even resist 30% of your power. If he is trained, he might be able to lead our Sky Sword sect. Sovereign, please reconsider. Just a moment ago, several peak masters were shouting to kill Yi Qinghan, but in the next moment, they took the initiative to protect Yi Qinghan. The power of a beautiful woman was strong. A single word could change the situation. Yi Qinghan did not care how the Sky Sword sect handled this. He took the opportunity to refine his body. After all, to be able to fight with a Bitter Sea stage expert, he would benefit greatly. In just a few short sentences, Yi Qinghan had swallowed at least a gene of stone milk essence. He gradually approached the door of the blood ignition realm. He only needed one more battle to the death and he would definitely break through. Raising his eyes to look at Jian Ao, he revealed a strong fighting spirit. Clenching his saber, he took a step forward 20 meters, standing in front of Wang Shufei. Pointing his saber, he coldly said, "I will give you one more chance to kill me. If you miss this chance, you will never have another chance." Everyone was taken aback, staring blankly at Yi Qinghan. They did not expect that Yi Qinghan would not take the opportunity to beg for mercy, but instead take the initiative to provoke Jian Ao. Was this not courting death? At this moment, even Yushirchia's brows were tightly knitted. Looking at Yi Qinghan, there was a kind of disdain and anger. "What are you doing? Senior brother Jian only wanted to teach you a lesson, so he only used 30% of his strength. Don't be ungrateful, quickly apologize to the sovereign." Yushirchia coldly scolded. "Qinghan, don't be ignorant. Senior brother only wanted to scare you, he did not really want to kill you. Quickly apologize to him." Wang Shufei also hurriedly shouted, "No need. If he can really take 50% of my strength and not die, I will help you resist the pressure of the king's mansion." Jian Ao's lips curled into a cold smile, then he stepped to the bottom of the mountain. Looking at Yi Qinghan from 10 meters away, he said in a low voice, "I will still condense qi into a sword, but it will contain martial techniques and 50% of my strength. I know you want to take the opportunity to break through, so I will not be merciful. You have to respect your own life and death." Jian Ao put his palms together, his body emitting an overflowing majesty. His body transformed into a sharp sword, shattering the surroundings and forcing everyone to retreat. Chapter 30. Jian Ao turned into a sharp sword and his sword Qi soared into the sky. A cold true essence sword appeared in his hand, filled with murderous intent. Everyone's hair stood on end. Their skin felt like it was being scraped by a blade as they were shocked by this sharp sword Qi. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank as he felt the murderous intent in Jian Ao's sword. Every pore on his body opened up as he desperately absorbed spirit Qi. The wild heavy saber emitted a cold light as it trembled and roared. Like an arrow, it whistled out. Overlapping sword style. Go. Jian Ao waved his hand and his sword aura was like a rainbow. A cold light illuminated the heaven and earth. Two true essence swords, one in front and one behind, roared out and destroyed all shackles. Wild god-slaying style. Universe saber. Oh, the sound of true essence breaking through space rang out in everyone's ears. It almost made the hearts of the Sky Sword sect disciples collapse. It was not because of Jian Ao's sword Qi, but because of Yi Qinghan's aura. A 16-year-old youth in the 9th layer of body refinement could actually release such a powerful saber art. It was simply shocking. The heaven and earth reversed and the 9 heavens wailed. Yi Qinghan was like a demonic saber god, standing between the heaven and earth. The wild heavy saber was released and all living things bowed down. Oh my god! What kind of martial skill is he using? It should be beyond the 3rd grade, right? Yushirchia sucked in a cold breath and asked in shock. I've never seen this kind of saber art before. So domineering, so sharp. Hui Yunluo said in a serious voice. This child is not ordinary. Perhaps he can really block senior brother's sword. Yushirchia was excited as if Yi Qinghan was her own disciple. Everyone laughed, no one was willing to refute her words. They all stared forward as the true essence sword and the wild heavy saber clashed. Their pupils shrank as they released a boundless energy to block the aftershock. Ing. The ear-splitting sound of the collision raised a monstrous amount of snow into the 9 heavens. The sound of the saber and sword was endless, tearing apart everyone's eardrums. The experts of the younger generation all retreated, not daring to look. In the instant of the collision, Yi Qinghan did not retreat and instead advanced. The true essence sword kept shaking as if it was about to collapse. What a clown! The killing intent in Jian Ao's eyes thickened, but he was filled with greed for Yi Qinghan's saber skills. Yi Qinghan used a small technique called inch strike. In a short distance, he released all the remaining energy in his body. He was not Jian Ao, and the amount of quintessential essence in his body was limited. If he could not instantly shatter Jian Ao's quintessential essence sword, he would definitely be defeated. Whoosh! The first quintessential essence sword erupted with its final struggle, dissipating with Yi Qinghan's explosive strength. However, the second quintessential essence sword suddenly erupted, charging straight at Yi Qinghan. Stacked sword style. The first true essence sword was not frightening. What was frightening was the second. Although it was much smaller than the first true essence sword, its quantity was not small. Moreover, it was much sharper. Whoosh! The sound of breaking air resounded through the clouds. The tip of the sword almost instantly arrived at Yi Qinghan's chest. The sharp qi energy caused his skin to explode and the surrounding snow to be dyed red. It's over. Yi Qinghan has no chance. Everyone felt that it was a pity. A genius of a generation had fallen just like that. Yu Shichia's face was even uglier. She did not expect Jian Ao to ignore the big picture and kill such a genius. No! Wang Shufei roared in anger. The quintessential essence sword was too close to Yi Qinghan. Not to mention him, even Yu Shichia could not stop it. In the distance, Qin Zheng was shocked. His figure flashed and he pounced towards Yi Qinghan. He shouted in a low voice, Jian Ao, you dare! Boom! The quintessential essence sword pierced through Yi Qinghan's chest and crashed into a mountain in the distance. It split open a small mountain. One could see how strong the quintessential essence sword was. Wang Shi watched as Yi Qinghan's body was pierced through by the quintessential essence sword and fainted. "Brother!" Yi Mingxi screamed, tears streaming down her face. Her figure flashed and she pounced towards Yi Qinghan's corpse. However, the moment she touched the broken figure, she passed through it. An illusion? The experts of the Sky Sword sect were shocked. Jian Ao was even more shocked. He was confident that this sword could kill any opponent, not to mention Yi Qinghan, who was in the 9th layer of body refinement. Yi Qinghan is not dead. Where is he? Qin Zheng was shocked. He did not see how Yi Qinghan left, only leaving behind a remnant. If Yi Mingxi had not pounced on empty air, everyone in front of him would have been fooled. "Jian Ao, you're crazy. It's fine if you don't train such a genius, but you actually want to kill him. You're really incorrigible. If you continue to be in charge of the Sky Sword sect, it will be destroyed within 10 years. Qin Zheng stared at Jian Ao with a face of disdain. This is an internal matter of the Sky Sword sect. Does the Spirit Treasures sect want to interfere? Jian Ao's face was ashen, but he did not feel guilty at all. Instead, he blamed Qin Zheng for interfering with the internal affairs of the Sky Sword sect. This is not only an internal matter of the Sky Sword sect. Yi Qinghan is the honored winemaker of the Spirit Treasures sect. If you dare to kill him, it will be the same as declaring war on the Spirit Treasures sect. Old man, are you prepared to suffer the wrath of the Spirit Treasures sect? Qin Zheng coldly asked. "Tis." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. When did Yi Qinghan become the honored winemaker of the Spirit Treasures sect? To be able to bear the word honored, although he did not have much power, his position was not something normal people could compare to. Yu Shijie and Wang Shufei were not shocked, but rather happy. This meant that Yi Qinghan would not be in danger anymore. If he could join the Breaking Sword Peak, the entire Sky Sword sect would rise. If Situ Yunxiao wanted to make a move, he would have to consider whether or not he could withstand the wrath of the Spirit Treasures sect. But now, the only thing that puzzled them was, where did Yi Qinghan go? At the foot of the huge Sky Sword sect mountain, there was nothing but empty space in a 500-meter radius. There was no place to hide. How could Yi Qinghan disappear under everyone's eyes? Facing Qin Zheng's questioning, Jian Ao did not have the chance to find Yi Qinghan. His face was ashen. "Jian Ao, you must give the Spirit Treasures sect an explanation today. If you do not have the qualifications to speak with the Spirit Treasures sect, then ask your Grand Elder to come out. I want to see if the current Sky Sword sect can really declare war on the Spirit Treasures sect." Qin Zheng looked extremely angry. At some point, the parrot had left Yi Mingxi and dived into the snow. At this moment, no one paid attention to a small bird. Plus, it was completely white, so it was no different from snow. After a few breaths of time, the parrot moved to the foot of a small mountain in the southwest. Yi Qinghan was hiding behind a rock. Blood essence was flowing out of his body, but his vigorous qi and blood had dimmed. There was a palm-sized sword wound on his chest, from which blood was gushing out. Huff! Yi Qinghan's breathing was somewhat uncontrollable. The light in his eyes was gradually fading. His flame of life was flickering in the cold wind. He could die at any moment. There was not a trace of Zhen Yuan fluctuation in his body. Even the Zhen Yuan energy in his blood had been crazily mobilized. He had used the extreme divine dragon steps to dodge Jian Ao's Zhen Yuan sword. At this moment he was truly exhausted. He did not even have the strength to move his fingers. If it was not for his terrifying willpower, he might have already died. "Master, wake up." The parrot threw itself at Yi Qinghan's side and desperately poured its spirit qi into Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan could finally open his eyes. His fingertips were slightly trembling, but he still could not control the yin and yang ring. He could not use the stone milk essence inside. "Give me more." Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse as he whispered. "All right, no problem." The parrot was not stingy. It poured all the spirit qi in its body into Yi Qinghan's body. It was so tired that it fell to the ground. However, Yi Qinghan could already move his arm and control the stone milk essence in the yin and yang ring. He drank it with all his might. The spirit qi flowed through his limbs and bones, turning into Zhen Yuan and gathering in his qi si. Boom boom boom. The Zhen Yuan in his veins was like a flood breaking through a dam. His wounds were constantly healing under the Zhen Yuan. Gulp gulp. Yi Qinghan was like a bottomless pit, swallowing the stone milk essence. The majestic spirit qi broke through the bottleneck of the body refinement realm and entered the blood ignition realm. The amount of Zhen Yuan in his qi si increased by more than 10 times. A stream of Zhen Yuan appeared in his qi si and continued to grow. His broken body was tempered into a body of steel by the Zhen Yuan. His seemingly fragile skin could withstand the full force of a grade 1 spirit weapon. His entire body was like a volcano that was about to erupt. It was fine if he did not move, but if he moved, mountains would collapse. Kacha? Yi Qinghan let out a low grunt. He moved slightly and the sound of bones breaking in his body was especially crisp. Zhen Yuan repaired his bones and reformed them into diamond bones. I've finally broken into the blood ignition realm. Facing bitter sea experts at this time, even if I don't have the ability to kill them, I should be able to protect myself. There was finally a ripple in Yi Qinghan's eyes. He looked down at the sorry figure of the parrot and smiled slightly. He bent down and poured out a bit of stone milk essence to replenish its energy. The parrot desperately absorbed the energy. The spirit qi in the stone milk essence was completely swallowed by it. All that was left was water. Hey, you're still picky. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He had never seen anyone who could directly absorb the stone milk essence and leave behind a puddle of water. My stomach is limited. What can I do with this waste water? I'm a divine devouring parrot, not a water-devouring parrot. The parrot's face was full of disdain. It rubbed its stomach with its wings and was very satisfied. Then it hooted, "Master, let's go beat them up." The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth rose slightly. He held the heavy berserk blade and was incomparably confident. There was a world of difference between his aura and before. "Follow me." Yi Qinghan took out a long robe and became as handsome as jade. His aura was extraordinary, as if he was a son of God that came from the realm of gods. The parrot jumped onto Yi Qinghan's shoulder and followed him out of the mountain cliff. They appeared in front of everyone and shocked everyone. He really didn't die. How did he do it? Yushirchia's eyes flashed as she muttered to herself in a low voice. The young disciples behind Yushirchia looked at Yi Qinghan and their faces were like peach blossoms. Their eyes flashed and an indescribable feeling surged in their hearts. So handsome. What a domineering man. The number one person of the younger generation in Jiangning County is definitely him. The beautiful fairies covered their mouths and were speechless. Not to mention them, even Yushirchia was unable to resist Yi Qinghan's aura. The vicissitudes of life in Yi Qinghan's eyes had a fatal attraction to women. "Good boy, you are really lucky." Qin Zheng's face was full of joy. He looked at Yi Qinghan, but there was an indescribable feeling of fear in his heart. Yi Qinghan gave people too many questions and puzzles. Just the secret technique he used to disappear from everyone's sight was enough to make him fearful. Yi Qinghan nodded indifferently. A strand of black hair swayed in the wind and covered half of his face. He slightly raised his head and looked at Jian Ao with a faint smile. He said arrogantly, "Thank you, Sect Master Jian, for not being stingy with your sword and letting me break into the blood ignition realm." Chapter 31. Thank you, Sect Master Jian, for not being stingy with your sword and allowing me to break through to the blood ignition realm. It was clearly a word of thanks. However, when everyone heard it, they found it somewhat peculiar. Jian Ao, on the other hand, found it highly ironic. He had originally wanted to kill off Yi Qinghan. Unexpectedly, he had become a stepping stone for Yi Qinghan's breakthrough. Jian Ao's face was ashen. Now that Qin Zheng had already revealed Yi Qinghan's identity, he did not dare to make a move. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to declaring war on the Spirit Treasure Pavilion. Compared to the Spirit Treasure Pavilion, the Sky Sword sect was like an elephant compared to an ant. "Brother Yi, how are you going to deal with this matter?" Qin Zheng said while clasping his fists. The words "Brother Yi" caused Jian Ao and the others to tremble. Qin Zheng was the head deacon of the Lingbao Pavilion in Jiangning County. His position was comparable to that of a duke. Yet he actually called the 16-year-old Yi Qinghan brother Yi. How respectful was this? Qin Zheng was trying to be friendly with Yi Qinghan not only because Yi Qinghan knew how to brew purple light wine, but also because he could not see through Yi Qinghan. He always felt that Yi Qinghan would soar into the clouds like a great rock spreading its wings. At this time, selling some benefits would not be a loss no matter what. The Sky Sword sect disciples' eyes were wide open, looking at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. The one who called Yi Qinghan brother Yi was Qin Zheng, a 3-star bitter sea stage expert. His battle strength was not inferior to Jian Ao's. After all, the level of his martial skills was much higher than Jian Ao's. Several female disciples' eyes were filled with stars. They wanted to say something but hesitated. They could not wait to pounce on this thick thigh right now. Master, the Sky Sword sect has a treasure. The parrot suddenly transmitted, its voice dignified and very serious. What is it? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and took the initiative to communicate with the parrot through his consciousness. I don't know, said the parrot excitedly. The spiritual energy is abundant, but it's being suppressed. It's very faint. Give me some time, and I'll be able to find it. Let's sneak in. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. He lifted his eyes to look at Jian Ao and lowered his posture. He bowed slightly and said, I was reckless and hurt a few of my senior brothers. Senior sect master disregarded our past enmity and sparred with me. He even helped me break through and benefited Qinghan greatly. I feel guilty and hope that sect master will forgive me if I have offended you. But Jian Ao was taken aback. He hadn't expected Yi Qinghan to not take advantage of the situation to extort money from the Heavenly Sword sect. Instead, he had taken the initiative to apologize, giving him face. Yi Qinghan was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not take advantage of the situation to bully others. Instead, he knew when to advance and retreat. Yi Qinghan's words instantly gained the goodwill of everyone present. Even Jian Ao felt somewhat embarrassed. This child can be taught. Master Yu nodded, very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's words. Wang Shufei nodded as well. He was extremely satisfied with this cheap grandson. We're all family. Just now sect master was deliberately testing Qinghan. Otherwise, how could a 9th-level body refinement cultivator escape from a bitter sea stage expert? We've all misunderstood senior brother sect master. Us old fellows can't see through things as clearly as Qinghan. Hui Yunluo laughed heartily, giving Jian Ao enough face. He also secretly praised Yi Qinghan for being smooth and slick. Jian Ao pretended to laugh. At this time, if he didn't take the opportunity to step down, then he would be looking for trouble. He then put his arm around Yi Qinghan's shoulder and praised without holding back. Qinghan, you really are the son of old Seven. Welcome back to the sect. If you don't mind, this old man will accept you as a direct disciple. How about it? The situation had reversed. Just now, it was still shouting and killing, danger lurking everywhere. At this moment, it had become joyous and harmonious. The young disciples all thought that Jian Ao was really going easy on Yi Qinghan. They couldn't help but be enlightened, nodding their heads. I knew it. How could a 9th-level body refinement cultivator escape from sect master's hands? So it was sect master's intention. But this Yi Qinghan's battle strength is not inferior to senior brother Jian Shi-san of the Sky Sword Peak. Now that he has broken through to the Blood Ignition realm, he is definitely one of the strongest contenders for the position of senior brother. The younger generation discussed animatedly, causing Jian Ao's face to gradually regain some color, preserving his face. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, Qin Jing secretly thought, this Yi Qinghan is definitely not a good person. He actually took the initiative to give face to Jian Ao. I'm afraid he has other plans. But this person will definitely be brilliant in the future. I definitely cannot offend him. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled, shaking his head and rejecting Jian Ao's invitation. He bowed to Wang Shufei and said, Grandson Yi Qinghan greets grandfathers. Good, my good grandson, since you can disregard the past and come back, this old man is extremely happy. Come to the Broken Sword Peak. If no new disciples come, The Broken Sword Peak will be disbanded. Wang Shufei was ecstatic as he laughed. Good, I'll join the Broken Sword Peak. Yi Qinghan lightly nodded his head. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Zheng and said, I'll have to trouble Mr. Qin to send my giant tiger to the Sky Sword sect. I'll ask you to quickly complete the matter I asked of you. Once the materials arrive, I'll immediately brew the purple light wine. Good. This is your identity token, representing my spirit treasure pavilion. Even Duke Sidu can't do anything to you. Qin Zheng handed over a golden token with the word glory engraved on it. It represented an extraordinary position. Yi Qinghan did not refuse and reached out to take it. As long as he had this identity token, Sidu Yunxiao would definitely not dare to make a move against him in public. After Qin Zheng left, the people of the Sky Sword sect also left. This was the day of reunion for the Broken Sword Peak. Yi Mingxi used the stalactite essence to wake up Wang Shi. She followed Wang Shufei into the Broken Sword Peak. Looking at the Sky Sword sect, which was 100 times more luxurious than the Yi clan, he did not feel any sense of belonging. All he wanted was the treasures of the Sky Sword sect, treasures that even the parrot was looking forward to. Wang Shufei looked at the family of 3 excitedly. It was as if he had become 10 years younger. However, when he saw that Wang Xian'er was older than him, his heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. Xian'er, father will definitely try to buy the face restoration pill for you, Wang Shufei said in a deep voice. The face restoration pill did not have much value, but it was extremely important for women. Especially for women like Wang Xian'er, who not only lost her looks, but also her cultivation. Without the face restoration pill, she could only wait for death. Wang Xian'er shook her head. She knew that the face restoration pill was priceless. Moreover, it was usually priceless. With the Broken Sword Peak's ability, it was impossible for them to afford it. She could only pretend that nothing had happened and comfort her father. Father, it's okay. As long as the 2 children have a home and you take care of them, it doesn't matter even if Xian'er dies now. Grandfather, you don't have to worry about this matter. I have already asked Qin Zheng to buy it. There should be news soon. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Wang Shi's eyes flashed with a trace of light. Seeing the earth-shattering changes in her son, she was very happy in her heart. It did not matter whether she could recover her looks or not because the man she loved was already dead. Her heart was also dead. Tai Sheng, bring Xian'er and Mengxi to the Broken Sword Peak for a walk. I will talk to Qinghan. Wang Shufei said to a vigorous middle-aged man outside the door. Yes, master. Tai Sheng replied respectfully. The group of people left. The parrot was also sent by Yi Qinghan to protect Wang Shi and Mengxi. Only Yi Qinghan and Wang Shufei were left in the main hall of the Broken Sword Peak. Qinghan, I will not beat around the bush with you. Tell me the truth. Do you really want to join the Broken Sword Peak? How are you going to deal with the Duke's mansion's pursuit? Wang Shufei's eyes were filled with worry as he asked in a low voice. How can a decaying land restrain a true dragon? I only came here this time to resolve my mother's worries. As for the Duke's mansion, I have my ways to deal with it in 2 months. Yi Qinghan was arrogant. In his eyes, the entire Owl Fall planet was a piece of cake. Sooner or later, he would step into the universe and conquer all the lands. Wang Shufei looked at Yi Qinghan's imposing manner and stopped breathing. He did not dare to doubt his words. However, I will leave my mother and Mengxi in your care in the future. You only need to take care of them for 3 to 5 years and Mengxi will grow up. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Mengxi? She is only 5 years old. She is still a little girl. Wang Shufei was sad. It seemed that his old bones would have to hold on for a few more years. 5 years old? Don't underestimate her. In 2 months, I guarantee that no one in the younger generation of the Sky Sword sect will be her match. Yi Qinghan's mouth revealed a trace of disdain. He was extremely confident. What? Wang Shufei's face was full of doubt. He did not dare to believe Yi Qinghan's words. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and didn't explain anything. He didn't want to talk too much with this grandfather who had appeared out of nowhere. He said directly, arrange a private room for me. I want to cultivate and consolidate the blood ignition realm. Okay, Grandfather has not taken good care of you all these years. I hope I can make up for it now. There are more than 30 blood ignition pills and several true yuan pills in this Jiankuan ring. It can help you when you are exhausted. Wang Shufei took out a Jiankuan ring and handed it to Yi Qinghan without hesitation. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment, then chose to accept Wang Shufei's compensation. The moment he received the ring, he grabbed Wang Shufei's right wrist. Wang Shufei was shocked. He wanted to use his majestic true yuan to shake off Yi Qinghan, but found that his right hand was unable to move as if it had been restrained by a supreme expert. After Yi Qinghan grabbed Wang Shufei's wrist, his true qi flowed through Wang Shufei's arm to his limbs and bones. "What are you doing?" Wang Shufei asked in shock. "Restrain your true yuan, don't resist. I will help you remove your hidden injuries, otherwise you will never be able to break through to the bitter sea stage," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Wang Shufei looked at Yi Qinghan in front of him, his eyes filled with shock. Even Jian Ao could not remove the hidden injuries in his body. Could this grandson in front of him really be able to remove them? Yi Qinghan's true yuan was like the spring rain, lubricating Wang Shufei's old meridians. Originally, the two different true yuan should not be compatible, but Yi Qinghan's true yuan quickly merged with Wang Shufei's true yuan. This made Wang Shufei's eyes widen, looking at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. On the left side of Wang Shufei's head, there was a dark purple scar that blocked the opening of the bitter sea. His true yuan could not approach it, as if it had formed a scar. Once he tried to approach this hidden injury, Wang Shufei would feel as if he had entered hell. He was in unbearable pain. These years, he had been tortured by this hidden injury to the point of hovering between life and death. Yi Qinghan's true yuan quickly approached the hidden injury. His true yuan surrounded him from all directions, completely blocking off the hidden injury. Wang Shufei did not feel the slightest bit of pain. Instead, he felt a very comfortable feeling. But he could feel a true yuan that did not belong to him constantly cutting off the hidden injury, shattering it and repairing it. Yi Qinghan's forehead was covered in sweat. He looked at the hidden injury on the left side of Wang Shufei's head. He had to be careful. If he was not careful, he would send this cheap grandfather to hell. Chapter 32. Wang Shufei's internal injuries had been tormenting him for more than 10 years. It was because of the matter between Wang Xian and Yi Chen that he was injured by Situ Yunxiao's father. The internal injuries had tormented him for more than 10 years, causing his cultivation to stagnate. Otherwise, he would have already broken through to the bitter sea stage. His sea of consciousness was wrapped in a gentle power, causing Wang Shufei to fall asleep. However, the internal injuries were gradually recovering, causing him to be incomparably excited. Yi Qinghan was getting more and more tired, but his eyes were also getting more and more relaxed. The blood clots and dead flesh in Wang Shufei's left brain had been refined and forced out of his body. As long as he recuperated for a few more days, he could prepare to open the bitter sea stage. Phew, that was close. Fortunately, he was treated in time. Otherwise, this internal injury would not allow him to live past this year. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He did not tell Wang Shufei about this matter. This was in itself a special transaction. Here are 5 pounds of stone milk essence. Use it to refine your true essence and strengthen your blood and qi. After a few days, I will give you a little purple light wine and you will be able to open your qi sea. Yi Qinghan took out a jar and handed it to Wang Shufei. His voice was somewhat hoarse. It was obvious that he had wasted a lot of effort in treating the internal injuries. When Wang Shufei felt that his true essence could enter his left brain, he was immediately overjoyed. The more he looked at Yi Qinghan, the more satisfied he was. "Qinghan, how did you do it?" Wang Shufei asked excitedly. "I know a little about medicine. Grandfather, you should rest. Pay attention to not immediately open the bitter sea stage. Now that you have accumulated a lot, entering the bitter sea stage is only a matter of time. More haste, less speed. Instead, it will destroy your foundation." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said a few words before following a disciple out of the main hall. Although Wang Shufei was incomparably happy, he was even more confused about Yi Qinghan. From the moment Yi Qinghan appeared, one surprise after another made him somewhat unable to believe it. Yi Qinghan arrived at a secluded and quiet small courtyard. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, he swallowed both the true elemental Dan and the blood ignition Dan and began to temper his body. The true essence in his qi si rapidly expanded. It was originally a small stream, but at this moment, it had become a relatively large river that stretched out for several dozen miles. If he wanted to break through to the blood ignition realm now, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He had to use his true essence to fill up the 990 miles of qi si before he could break through the bottleneck. Otherwise, he would forever be stuck in the blood ignition realm. After consuming several dozen true essence pills and blood ignition pills, he had only managed to gather such a small amount of true essence. It could be imagined that every step he took was thousands of times more difficult than others. In addition, he also had to temper his body. Without spirit crystals as cultivation resources, it would be very difficult for him to enter the middle stage of the blood ignition realm. Looks like I have to think of a way to get some spirit crystals, Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. In his previous life, he knew that there were many places with spirit crystal mines, but they were all on Owl Warstar. Now that Owl Warstar had been destroyed, one had to be at least at the Grotto Heaven realm to step onto its fragments. Distant water could not put out a nearby fire. After a long time, Yi Qinghan came to the window and looked at the drizzling rain outside. As the cold wind blew, the snow on the trees melted and fell to the ground. The Broken Sword Peak was like a fairyland. Suddenly, a woman in snow-white clothes holding a delicate umbrella appeared at the entrance of Yi Qinghan's courtyard. Her peerless beauty was suffocating. Her face was like a work of the gods, perfectly sculpted by the heavens. Yi Qinghan's pupils slightly shrank as he looked at the woman who had arrived. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. She was a heavenly beauty, and she was wearing a refreshing white robe. In his heart, he vaguely felt a faint threat, and he could not help but be surprised. The current Yi Qinghan would only feel this kind of vigilance when facing someone at the peak of the blood ignition realm. However, the woman in front of him was clearly at the early stage of the blood ignition realm. Moreover, she was so soft as if she had no bones. She could actually threaten him. Jade Maiden Peak's Jian Chenxue has come to pay respects to Brother Yi. I have come uninvited, so please forgive me. Jian Chenxue's voice was like the sound of nature. It was even more like a yellow oriole flying out of the valley. It was a clear and melodious voice that caused people to feel a kind of numbness in their bones. She was absolutely a peerless beauty. Her bones are naturally charming. What a powerful woman. Yi Qinghan secretly said in his heart. He remembered the name Jian Chenxue. She was the chief disciple of the Jade Maiden Peak of the Sky Sword sect, the last disciple of Master Yu. She had practiced the Jade Maiden Sword technique to the peak of perfection. There were very few opponents in the same realm who could match her. She could almost be compared to the elders of the older generation. Come in, Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Jian Chenxue smiled faintly, causing the heaven and earth to lose their color. It was as if spring had returned early. It could reverse the universe and cause all living things to fall for her. She walked gracefully across the courtyard and gently pushed open the door. The two of them looked at each other, and sparks flashed in their eyes. This was not Jian Chenxue being infatuated with him, but a strong battle intent. Yi Qinghan was very calm. No matter how strong Jian Chenxue was, he did not care too much. If the soul of an invincible martial saint was defeated by a little woman, it would be too laughable. What's the matter? Yi Qinghan's vigorous, hoarse, and indifferent voice asked. Jian Chenxue was secretly shocked. She had already used her charm technique. If it was another man, they would have already bowed and licked her. However, Yi Qinghan was not affected at all. Recently, my cultivation has been stagnant. I heard that Brother Yi has a deep understanding of the martial Tao, so I came to ask for guidance. Jian Chenxue restrained her battle intent and slightly bowed. I'm not your teacher. You should look for martial Uncle Yu for this kind of thing. Yi Qinghan indifferently said. We are brothers and sisters from the same sect. We should help each other. Does Brother Yi think that I am not worthy of your guidance? Jian Chenxue smiled faintly. Jian Chenxue's appearance indeed did not make people feel bad. In addition, she was humbly asking for guidance. If it were another man, he would have already displayed all his trump cards to win the favor of the beauty. However, Yi Qinghan did not feel the slightest bit moved. I have just broken through to the blood ignition realm. I am of no help to you. Yi Qinghan was stubborn and did not want to say more. What a fool. Jian Chenxue reprimanded. Her charming appearance was enough to move most men. If you are here to ask for guidance, please leave. I am stupid and can't help you. Yi Qinghan shook his head and signaled her to leave. Is this guy's heart made of iron? Or does he have no emotions and desires? Facing such a person like me, he has no intention of flattering me. Jian Chenxue was secretly angry. For the first time, she doubted her charm. A charming light flowed in her jewel-like eyes. She thought to herself, according to Master, his martial technique is definitely above the 3rd grade. His ability to use martial techniques is also at the peak. If I can fight with him, I may be able to enter the middle stage of the blood ignition realm and become the #1 person among the younger generation in Jiangning County. Jiangning County currently had 6 people in the early stage of the blood ignition realm. However, none of them had broken through to the middle stage of the blood ignition realm. Once someone entered the middle stage of the blood ignition realm first, they would definitely lead Jiangning County to the big stage of the Qingyang Kingdom. Although Jian Chenxue was only a woman, her Dao heart was calm and she was full of interest in the endless universe. She was more desperate than anyone in the Sky Sword sect. Fight with me. Jian Chenxue's aura changed. She was valiant and heroic. She lost some of her charm and became more manly. Her weak body contained a terrifying power. Once it was unleashed, she could definitely beat the younger generation of the Sky Sword sect. I don't have the time, and I'm not interested. Yi Qinghan had his back facing Jian Chenxue. His eyes shot out a bright light and soared into the sky. A domineering aura gushed out from his back. It was as if he was looking down on all living things and had his back facing them. He couldn't generate the slightest bit of battle intent against someone of the same level. That kind of disdain was self-evident. I will give you 10 true elemental dawn as long as you fight with me. Jian Chenxue was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's aura. Her eyes had a trace of confusion, but she quickly recovered. She gritted her teeth and wished she could kick Yi Qinghan out. Jian Chenxue's persistence made Yi Qinghan speechless. He was a little regretful that he let her in. However, looking at her character, he was afraid that she would force her way in even if he didn't let her in. Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Chenxue and turned around to approach her. Jian Chenxue was surprised and quickly took a step back, afraid that Yi Qinghan would touch her. How do you want to fight? Yi Qinghan closed in step by step. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of an evil smile as he looked down at Jian Chenxue. Jian Chenxue felt Yi Qinghan's sharp eyes. Her breath suddenly stagnated and she angrily asked, "You rogue, where are you looking at?" "Of course I'm looking at you. Now you ran into my room and want to fight with me. Don't tell me you don't allow me to look at you?" Yi Qinghan lightly asked back. "Pervert. If you have the ability, come with me to the martial arts arena." Jian Chenxue angrily shouted. "Yo, little beauty, Master's room is so big and warm. It's very suitable for talking about love and dreams. Why do you always want to go to a world of ice and snow?" A wretched voice sounded. The parrot spread its wings and rushed to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It looked at Jian Chenxue and couldn't help but say in surprise, "Such a beautiful girl. Master, take her." The parrot's wretched nature did not change. When it saw Bai Shuer, it wanted Yi Qinghan to take her. When it saw Jian Chenxue, it also wanted to take her. Jian Chenxue was flustered and exasperated. Her face was red. Looking at the parrot and Yi Qinghan, she pulled out a soft sword from her waist and shouted angrily, "Yi Qinghan, I want to fight with you. I didn't provoke you." This sentence was said by the parrot. "You fight with it." Yi Qinghan really didn't want to say more. He grabbed the parrot and threw it out. "Oh fuck. Master, you can't be so heartless. The parrot was shocked. It could feel Jian Qinshue's strength and its momentum suddenly weakened. Jian Qinshu snorted and stepped out of the room. She looked at the parrot and said coldly, "Today I'll teach you how to talk. Let's see if your master will still not fight after I kill you." The parrot was shocked. It quickly flapped its wings and rushed to the sky. It directly compromised and said, "Beauty, I've been sick recently. I'm not suitable for fighting. Let's wait a few days." Divine bird? In my opinion, like master, like slave. You two lowly bastards, get down here. Whoosh, Jian Qinshu slashed with her sword. The sword chi rushed to the sky as fast as lightning and rushed to the parrot. The parrot screamed and hurriedly dodged. However, the sword chi also hit its hair. Its white feathers fluttered like snow. A woman's heart is the most vicious. How dare you hurt me? I'll teach you a lesson. The parrot turned its head and saw the most beautiful feathers on it but were cut off. It was furious. Come down if you dare. I'll see how you teach me a lesson. Jian Qinshu pointed at the parrot angrily. Fortunately, she couldn't fly. Otherwise, she would have rushed up. Come up if you dare. I'll beat your butt. The parrot flew higher and higher. When the cold wind blew, its butt, which had lost the protection of its feathers, could not help but shrink. It almost fell down. Chapter 33. The parrot scurried along the tree and cried out in fear, but it couldn't get rid of Jian Qinshu's divine sense. Don't fly if you have the guts. Come out and fight with me. Jian Qinshu shouted angrily. Throw away the bow if you have the guts. The parrot was still arrogant. Jian Qinshu gritted her teeth and put away the crossbow. She pointed at the parrot and said, I put it away. Come out. Good girl. You are so lovable. You should act like a woman so that the master will like you. Now go home. If you don't go home, your parents will be worried. The parrot hid behind the tree and showed its head to mock her. Yi Qinghan stood in front of the window and saw the silly parrot teasing Jian Qinshu. He couldn't help but laugh. Yi Qinghan laughed, but Jian Qinshu was extremely angry. Her whole body trembled, and she took a few deep breaths to calm down. Yi Qinghan, are you a man or not? Jian Qinshu asked coldly. I don't know if I am a man or not, but you can find out. The parrot answered casually. Yi Qinghan, I will kill you, you beast. Jian Qinshu didn't care about the broken sword peak anymore. She slashed with her sword, and the sword energy destroyed dozens of ancient giant trees and hit the parrot directly. Whoosh! The parrot flew dozens of meters vertically. It was scared by the sharp and brutal sword energy and screamed, Oh my God, violent woman. Be careful that you won't be able to get married. Boom! Jian Qinshu's remaining power hit the mountain, and sand and stones flew everywhere. It could be seen how terrifying her angry attack was. Yi Qinghan held his chin with his right hand and bent over the window. He looked at the furious Jian Qinshu and smiled. Jian Qinshu saw Yi Qinghan looking down on her, and she couldn't hold back her anger. Her hatred for him was endless. The Heaven's Sword sect forbade disciples from killing each other. If both parties agreed to fight on the martial arts practice field, it would be a different matter. Now that Yi Qinghan did not agree to the competition, Jian Qinshu could only worry helplessly. The explosion on the shattering sword peak quickly alerted the people on the other main peaks. Some powerful existences rushed up one after another. When they saw the woman from the Heaven's Sword sect, their faces turned red with anger. They were all angry at Yi Qinghan, but no one dared to say anything. However, there were a few extremely powerful existences glaring angrily at Yi Qinghan. Their cultivation bases weren't weak, and they should be the top disciples of the 8 main peaks. 3 of them had already broken through to the blood ignition realm. It seemed like their talents far surpassed those of the same realm. Junior Sister Jian, did this guy bully you? A majestic man's voice was like muffled thunder. He looked at Jian Qinshu tenderly and wished he could hold Jian Qinshu in his arms. It's none of your business. Jian Qinshu was in an extremely bad mood and immediately roared. The man's expression slightly changed, but he wasn't angry. Instead, he looked at Yi Qinghan with a face full of killing intent and said disdainfully, "I am the top disciple of the Fire Sword Peak, Huqian. Yi Qinghan, I heard that your combat ability is very strong. If you have the guts, fight me one-on-one. What's the point of bullying a girl?" Yi Qinghan was calm. He glanced at everyone indifferently and said in a low voice, "This is not the martial arts practice field. This is the Shattering Sword Peak, and also my residence. You are not welcome here." Then Yi Qinghan directly closed the door and began to cultivate, leaving the young geniuses in the courtyard looking at each other in dismay. "You are going too far. Arrogant and ignorant." Huqian was extremely angry. The top disciple of the Fire Sword Peak had personally come to the Shattering Sword Peak, but the other party actually closed the door and refused to see them. He directly sent them away. This was simply humiliating them. Humph! Jian Chenxue stomped her foot and glared fiercely at the parrot, before she turned and rushed out of the courtyard. Huqian and the others angrily glared at Yi Qinghan's room and cursed, "So it's a coward. I really thought he was as powerful as the rumors said, that he could withstand 50% of the strength of the sect master." TCH, the sect master is an expert of the 4th level of the bitter sea stage. Even the old Duke Situ is not his opponent. In the entire Jiangning County, other than the highest elder and the old duke, who can compete with him? Even if he uses 1/10 of his strength, it is not something that a junior can withstand. I guess the sect master took pity on the 3 of them and deliberately let him win. This kind of trash can only bully little girls. In a few days, it will be the elite competition. I don't believe that he won't represent the Shattering Sword Peak. Yes, in the last elite competition, 2 disciples of the Shattering Sword Peak were completely wiped out. If there is no one this year, then the Shattering Sword Peak will be disbanded, ha. Several chief disciples blocked Yi Qinghan's door and loudly ridiculed him. They all wanted to anger Yi Qinghan so that they could teach him a lesson and help Jian Chenxue vent her anger. But Yi Qinghan did not come out at all, as if he did not hear them. In the end, they had no choice but to be rebuffed. They directly flicked their sleeves and left. Yi Qinghan had been in closed-door training and did not see anyone. Even Wang Xufei was sent away with a few words. The parrot knew that Yi Qinghan was in closed-door training and did not dare to disturb him. It could only follow Yi Mingxi all day. However, Yi Mingxi had recently received a large amount of resources from Wang Xufei, so she cultivated even more desperately. Her ethereal flying immortal steps had reached the 4th level, which was close to the blood ignition realm. Wang Xufei saw that Yi Mingxi's cultivation technique was strange and incomparably superior. He could not help but be secretly shocked. Regardless of whether it was the Yi clan fist, the ethereal flying immortal steps, or the Qi cultivation extreme heavenly origin technique, they were all rare and peerless cultivation techniques. "Who taught you these cultivation techniques?" Wang Xufei asked in shock. "Grandfather. Elder brother taught me," Yi Mingxi said seriously. "Who taught your elder brother?" Wang Xufei was even more confused about Yi Qinghan. These cultivation techniques clearly did not belong to any faction in Jiangning County. They were not even from the Azure Sun Kingdom. "I don't know. Elder brother said that these cultivation techniques cannot be taught to anyone." Yi Mingxi pursed her lips, feeling somewhat embarrassed. She could see that Wang Xufei coveted her cultivation techniques, but she could not teach them to him. "You continue cultivating. I'll just watch. I won't learn." Wang Xufei laughed embarrassedly as he stared at Yi Mingxi's footsteps. He felt that the more he looked, the deeper his understanding of the secret technique would be. "Little old man, do you want to learn? I can teach you a move or two, but I want to ask you a question. You have to answer me," the parrot whispered with a demonic look on its face. "What's the question?" Wang Xufei looked at the wretched parrot. In just 2 days, he had clearly understood its temperament. He knew that there was no benefit in bickering with it. What kind of enchantment seal is used to seal the tower behind the main peak? Is the enchantment activated 24 hours a day? The parrot asked in a low voice. "What? You want to use that place?" Wang Xufei glared at the parrot with dissatisfaction and said in a cold voice, "That place is the ancestral land of my heavenly sword sect. It is a forbidden area. Unless the sect is destroyed, It will never be opened. No one is allowed to enter. Don't get excited. Don't be nervous. Do I look like someone who lacks treasures? To tell you the truth, master's cultivation techniques were taught by me. Do you think I would take advantage of others? The parrot bluffed. Yi Mingxi curled her lips and proudly glared at the parrot. She clearly did not believe its words. When Yi Qinghan taught her the Yi family fist, there was no parrot. I don't care how much you lack treasures. In short, you can't enter the tower. There is a supreme elder there. You will die if you enter. It doesn't matter if you die, but don't implicate my grandson. Wang Shufei warned with dissatisfaction. I don't care. Isn't it just 100-year-old treasure, the Enlightenment Lotus? Do you think I don't know? The parrot said disdainfully. Wang Shufei sucked in a breath of cold air. Even he did not know this information. Where did this parrot get this information? 100-year-old Enlightenment Lotus was not very useful. It could not help people understand the Tao. Only 1,000-year-old Enlightenment Lotus could help people understand the Tao. Moreover, to understand the Tao, one had to be at the Tao sovereign realm. Both were indispensable. However, the Enlightenment Lotus was priceless. Even if it was 100-year-old treasure, once it was released, it would attract countless experts. After all, experts above the heavenly passage realm did not lack time. Who wouldn't be willing to spend a few hundred years to cultivate an Enlightenment Lotus? Where did you get this information? Don't talk nonsense. Do you want to kill the Sky Sword sect? Wang Shufei roared angrily. Hey, old man, I am helping your grandson. Who are you helping? The parrot asked discontentedly. You can't help anyone. In short, you can't enter the back mountain. You can't talk nonsense. Wang Shufei warned. Good. Stubborn old man, I wanted to teach you a move or two. I really can't teach you. The parrot shook its head with an unfathomable look. Divine bird, you can't be so rude to grandfather. Yi Mingxi curled her lips and said. The parrot shrugged and rushed to the sky. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared in the silver world. On the Jade Maiden Peak, Master Concubine Yu looked at Jian Qinshue's flustered and exasperated face. She could not help but be curious. This disciple had learned her true skills. Her combat strength was superb and her character was excellent. How could she be so angry? Master, that Yi Qinghan and that bird are simply bastards. How can they be as good as you say? Jian Qinshu curled her lips and wanted to cry. You went to find him? Master Concubine Yu asked in surprise. Yes, I left first. I am stuck at the initial stage of the blood ignition realm. Ordinary medicine and your explanation can't help me break through. I heard you say that his martial arts skills are very powerful, so I wanted to ask for advice. But he and that bird are simply obscene. The more Jian Qinshu spoke, the angrier she became. If it were not for the sect's rules, she would have rushed back to the Broken Sword Peak and hacked that unscrupulous master and servant to death. Qinshu, this Yi Qinghan is not simple. Don't be fooled by his unruly appearance. Listen to your master. Don't be his enemy. If you want to do something, do it openly, understand? Master Concubine Yu said in a serious voice. Jian Qinshu knew that Master Concubine Yu saw more clearly than her, but she really did not want to believe that Yi Qinghan was really so terrifying. He was even more powerful than her. Is he really that powerful? Jian Qinshu frowned and asked. You are not his match. Sword 13 on the main peak may not be his match either. If you want to ask him for advice, you have to put down your status and don't play tricks. As long as he is willing to teach you a few words, it should not be worse than your master's words. Master Concubine Yu whispered. I don't believe it. Jian Qinshu was very arrogant. She always felt that she would not lose to any man of the same level. She was talented and intelligent, so she did not refute Master Concubine Yu's words. She could only nod her head in agreement. At night, the Heaven Sword sect was shrouded in white snow. Spirit Qi lingered around, and it was magnificent. Yi Qinghan stepped onto a lonely mountain alone. He danced with his heavy berserk saber, and his speed became faster and faster. His true essence flowed, and the speed at which he absorbed true essence was gradually equal to the speed at which he consumed it. Shwa shwa shwa. The cold light of the saber was like a bolt of lightning. It cut through the air silently and made a sound. His figure was as ethereal as an immortal, wanting to break through the air. Chapter 34. At the back of the Broken Sword Peak, a figure was dancing like a real dragon. Every move he made was earth-shattering. His huge blade arts made people feel awe. Even if he did not use much Shenyuan, his strength had already reached 10,000 jin. Heavy berserker god-slaying style. Yi Qinghan had used almost 1/10 of his strength, but the power of his heavy berserker blade arts had only decreased by 1/7. Boom, a cold light flashed, and dozens of trees were cut in half from the middle. It was very neat, like cutting through tofu. Heavy berserker sky-breaking style. Shwa shwa shwa, more than a dozen saber lights surrounded an ancient tree from all directions, crushing it into pieces. Heavy berserker mountain-breaking style. Yi Qinghan was like a demon god descending. He stepped on the rocks and used the extreme Dao dragon steps. He almost jumped into the air and flattened a mountain in front of him. Xiao, Yi Qinghan turned into a heavenly dragon and flew through the air. He stepped on the leaves as if he was walking on flat ground. With a few somersaults, he covered a distance of dozens of meters and appeared on the opposite mountain. He shook his head slightly in dissatisfaction when he saw that the flattened mountain wasn't even flat. My Zhenyuan has decreased by 1/10, and the power is actually so weak. It seems like I have to work harder. Yi Qinghan said to himself. On the third day of entering the Broken Sword Peak, Qin Zheng finally came. He took out a large amount of materials for the purple light wine and the heavy berserker blade. Mr. Yi, the face restoration pill is extremely hard to find. I have already reported it to the higher-ups. If there is any news, I will let you know immediately. Qin Zheng said. Good, if you can't get the face restoration pill, then help me find the materials. I will refine it myself. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. What? You know how to refine pills? The face restoration pill is a 4th-grade pill. There are not many who can refine it on the entire Owl Fall star. Qin Zheng was shocked. Yi Qinghan's battle strength was unparalleled. It was already unbelievable that he could brew such a high-grade spirit wine. Collecting refining materials meant that he also knew how to refine pills. Now that he knew how to refine pills, was there anything he did not know? I know a little, Yi Qinghan said calmly. A little bit? Qin Zheng blushed with shame. If those who could refine the rejuvenation pill could only say that they had a little bit of knowledge, then those ordinary alchemists who spent their entire lives studying to become a 3rd-grade alchemist would have to commit suicide out of shame. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Qin. Please help me take care of Mr. Sun. He saved my life and I will definitely repay him in the future. After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he gave the order to leave. Now that he had the materials for the heavy berserk saber, he had to quickly forge the 7-foot berserk saber. Don't worry. When I leave Jiangning County, Sun Fizi will become the chief deacon of Jiangning County. There will be no one who will compete with him. Qin Zheng bowed and used honorifics, indicating that he really treated Yi Qinghan as a senior. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice, Thank you. I'll come back tomorrow to collect the purple light wine. It'll still be 10 jars. If possible, I hope that Lingbao Pavilion can pay with spirit crystals. I need spirit crystals. Spirit crystals? That kind of thing can only be absorbed by experts above the 5th star of the Bitter Sea stage. Qin Zheng was stunned, but when he saw Yi Qinghan's cold face, he quickly stopped asking and said directly, Spirit crystals are not a problem. I'm willing to pay 3 low-grade spirit crystals for a jar of purple light wine. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and left. If the purple light wine was placed on a 5th-grade star, it would be worth at least 3 high-grade spirit crystals. In this small place, it was only worth 3 low-grade spirit crystals. Returning to the courtyard, Yi Qinghan cleaned 15 jars of wine and arranged them in a row. He refined the white snow, removed the impurities, took the spirit water, and quickly brewed the purple light wine. He let the parrot guard it and found Wang Shufei. Grandfather, does the Sky Sword sect have a high-grade crafting furnace? I want to borrow it. Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. The crafting furnace is in the weapon sword peak, but I don't have a good relationship with the peak master of the weapon sword peak. If you want to borrow it, I'm afraid. Wang Shufei's face was somewhat ugly. The broken sword peak did not have a good relationship with any other peak. Even Master Yu despised him, thinking that he did not have the courage to protect his daughter and son-in-law. What is the relationship between the Jade Maiden Peak and the Weapon Sword Peak? Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and asked in a deep voice. The relationship between the Jade Maiden Peak and the other peaks is very good. If your Master Yu is willing to speak for you, I think the old man of the Weapon Sword Peak will give in. Even if Jian Chenxue introduces you to the chief disciple of the Weapon Sword Peak, Qi Lianqing, you may be able to borrow the crafting furnace. Wang Shufei said in a muffled voice. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he could not help but smile bitterly. He had just offended Jian Chenxue, and now he had to turn around and ask her for help. Wasn't this giving his face to be slapped? However, in order to forge the 7-foot heavy berserk saber, he could throw away his old face. In any case, no one on this small planet knew him. Yi Qinghan quickly descended from the broken sword peak. As he walked on the small path, he attracted the attention of many people. Isn't this the broken sword peak's Yi Qinghan, senior brother Yi? Ever since he came to the broken sword peak, he has not come out. Today, he is finally willing to come out. A young disciple with a cultivation of the 5th body refinement layer had a face full of reverence. It was obvious that he had also seen Yi Qinghan flip out that day. Is he going to the Jade Maiden Peak? Doesn't he know that the Jade Maiden Peak hates male disciples the most? A disciple gloated in a low voice. Hey, he is going to be unlucky. If he meets Master Yu, he will definitely be thrown down. None of the young disciples wanted to warn Yi Qinghan. They all hid in the distance and whispered. Yi Qinghan did not care too much. He followed the mountain path of the Jade Maiden Peak and found that the spirit chi of the Jade Maiden Peak was much stronger than that of the Broken Sword Peak. It was adorned with white snow and shining with a silver light. It was extremely beautiful. A few young and beautiful girls were cultivating in the martial arts field halfway up the mountain. They were floating like fairies. When they saw Yi Qinghan approaching, they all stood up and looked at him. Yi Qinghan had an indescribable charm and a sense of vicissitudes. In addition, he was as handsome as jade. A few days ago, he had a strong battle with sect leader Jian Ao. His fame was great, and many girls had their hearts set on him. If it was not for the fact that there was a strong enemy behind Yi Qinghan, these girls would have already taken the initiative to express their goodwill. Senior apprentice brother Yi, you can't go up anymore. If master or eldest senior apprentice sister sees you, they will definitely scold you. A delicate and pretty girl quickly went up and said. Yi Qinghan looked at the little girl in front of him. She was only 14 or 15 years old and was very delicate. She had a tender face and clear eyes that did not have any evil chi. He knew that she was telling the truth. He said to her, Junior apprentice sister, please invite Jian Chenxue down. Tell her that I, Yi Qinghan, have come to visit. Oh, wait a moment. I will come down immediately. The little girl had an excited expression as she turned and ran towards the top of the Jade Maiden Peak. In the side hall of the Jade Maiden Peak, Jian Chenxue was frowning. She had been stuck at the peak of the early stage of the Blood Ignition realm for a long time. However, the bottleneck was as stable as Mount Tai and could not be shaken. Dong dong dong. After a few hurried knocks on the door, a clear voice came from outside. Eldest senior apprentice sister, I am Sun Er. Senior apprentice brother Yi from the Broken Sword Peak is looking for you. He is already halfway up the mountain. Do you want to see him? When Jian Chenxue heard Yi Qinghan's name, her brows locked together. She immediately stood up and angrily said to herself, Bastard, you still dare to come and find me. This time, you are the one who delivered yourself to my doorstep. Don't blame me for being impolite. Sun Er, go down and tell him to wait for me, Jian Chenxue said in a deep voice. When the little girl named Sun Er heard this, she immediately ran down the mountain. Jian Chenxue's face was gloomy. The cold aura caused the temperature in the room to drop. She quickly changed into a battle robe and took out the mother-son Jade Maiden sword that she had never used before. She immediately rushed towards the middle of the Jade Maiden Peak. When Yi Qinghan saw Jian Chenxue dressed in formal attire and holding the Jade Maiden sword, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch as he bitterly smiled. "You still dare to come to the Jade Maiden Peak? See if I don't kill you!" Jian Chenxue angrily shouted. Jian Chenxue was indeed the head disciple of the Jade Maiden Peak. Her speed was astonishing. She stepped on the dried branches and leaped down like a dragonfly skimming the water. The snow behind her rustled as her white battle robe made her look like a fairy. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said indifferently, "That day in my room, please forgive me for being rude. Qinghan is here to apologize." Eldest senior sister went to senior brother Ye's room? What did senior brother Yi do to eldest senior sister? Sun Er's bright eyes widened as she curiously looked at Yi Qinghan and Jian Chenxue. At this moment, all the disciples of the Jade Maiden Peak were very curious. Clearly, they did not know that Jian Chenxue went to the Broken Sword Peak and even entered Yi Qinghan's room. As for what happened in the room, only the two of them knew. "I don't need your insincere apology." Jian Chenxue pointed her sword at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice, "Make your move. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. I can make my move, but you have to agree to one condition of mine." Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. "As long as you can defeat me, I will agree to any condition. If you lose," Jian Chenxue sneered, implying that he would have to bear the consequences. "Are you sure that as long as I win, you will agree to any condition?" Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. A devilish light flashed across his eyes as he asked in a strange tone. When Jian Chenxue heard Yi Qinghan's strange tone and devilish gaze, she could not help but shiver. It was as if she was standing naked in front of Yi Qinghan. Her face turned red as she thought to herself, "Bah! If you want to take advantage of me, you have to see if you are qualified. As long as it is not a condition of principle, I will agree to it. However, I don't think you will have the chance to raise any conditions." Jian Chenxue adjusted her breathing as she stared at the devilish Yi Qinghan and said confidently, "Then let's talk about the conditions first. Otherwise, if I win and you tell me that this is your principle and that I cannot agree to it, wouldn't I be at a disadvantage?" Yi Qinghan did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. "All right, what are your conditions?" Jian Chenxue coldly asked. "If I win, help me borrow a high-grade crafting furnace for 3 days. Yi Qinghan quickly said, "High-grade crafting furnace? You know how to refine?" Jian Chenxue was somewhat doubtful as she asked with a face full of disdain. "This has nothing to do with you. Tell me, do you agree?" Yi Qinghan proudly replied. "All right, I agree. However, what if you lose?" Jian Chenxue revealed a cold smile as she gripped the fairy sword tightly and asked in a deep voice, "You will not win. If you really win, I will become your slave and follow your orders." Yi Qinghan was extremely arrogant as he turned around and walked towards the martial arts stage. Everyone looked at each other. They did not think that Yi Qinghan would place such a heavy bet. They did not understand why Jian Chenxue, who was known for being gentle and confident, had such a bad temper when she met Yi Qinghan. Chapter 35. The news that Yi Qinghan and Jian Chenxue were going to fight in the martial arts arena spread like wildfire. A large number of young disciples had gathered in the martial arts arena, and even some elders had come out. Jian Chenxue had a dignified face as she angrily glared at Yi Qinghan. Her peerless face had a different feeling. Yi Qinghan held the heavy berserk saber in his arms and looked very calm, as if he was not going to fight. The calmer he was, the angrier Jian Chenxue became, and she gnashed her teeth in hatred. "I'll let you pretend. I'll beat you until you look for your teeth on the ground," Jian Chenxue secretly said. In the center of the Sky Sword sect, the martial arts arena was crowded with disciples from the 7 peaks. Except for the Broken Sword Peak, no one had come, because the Broken Sword Peak did not have many disciples. "Who do you think will win?" A skinny monkey-like young man asked the people around him with a grin. "Of course the goddess will win. I'll bet a true elemental Dan with you." A little guy solemnly said. Hua Chen sneered. He circulated his true elemental energy and shouted in a low voice, "Today I'll be the banker. I bet on junior sister Chenxue winning. The odds are 1-to-1. I'll pay however much you bet." Asterisk pa pa pa. Asterisk. A few crisp slapping sounds resounded throughout the martial arts arena, and a handsome man holding a fine steel fan appeared in front of everyone, attracting the attention of many people. Qi Lianchen was the chief disciple of Qi Jianfeng. Not only was he an expert in the way of the sword, but he was also a second-grade blacksmith. The iron fan in his hand was a second-grade peak spiritual weapon, which he had personally forged. Whoever underestimated the fan in his hand would most likely die in his hands. "Brother Qi, I didn't expect you to also come to watch the fun. Do you want to bet?" Hua Chen raised his voice and asked. "Chenxue is competing with others. How can I not come out?" Qi Lianchen had an arrogant look, as if Jian Chenxue was already in his bag, which attracted the dissatisfaction of several chief disciples, but he did not care. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Jian Chenxue, and said in a serious voice, "I'll be the banker with Brother Hua. You can bet as much as you want, we won't go back on our words. Bet on junior sister Chenxue winning, 1-to-1, bet on Yi Qinghan winning, 1-to-10. Hua Chen seems to be extremely confident in Jian Chenxue. He actually raised the odds to 1-to-10. For senior sister Jian's sake, we have to bet on her to win. It doesn't matter how much you earn. I also bet on senior sister Jian to win. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't expect these people to use him as a wager, and the odds were so high. He couldn't help but sneer. I wonder if I can bet on myself to win? You can bet on yourself winning, but you can't bet on yourself losing. Qi Lianchen gently waved his iron fan like an immortal. If the parrot were here, it would definitely mock him for being pretentious enough to wave a chicken feather fan in the middle of winter. 10-to-1? Can I bet on anything? Yi Qinghan asked seriously as an evil smile flashed across his face. Of course, I rely on my reputation. What's more, I have plenty of money. I can afford to lose as long as you win. Qi Lianchen looked at Yi Qinghan disdainfully, and then looked at Jian Chenxue gently, deliberately showing his goodwill. Jian Chenxue couldn't wait to fight with Yi Qinghan now. Apparently, Qi Lianchen's flattery didn't hit the mark. Instead, it hit Yi Qinghan. Cut the crap and place the wager. Today, no matter what you say, you will fight with me to the death. Jian Chenxue said impatiently. To be honest, I don't know you. I'll give the wager to Jian Chenxue first. Do you trust her? Yi Qinghan asked seriously. Of course, if I don't trust Chenxue, who else can I trust? Qi Lianchen replied indifferently. I'm afraid you can't afford it. Yi Qinghan snorted and said to Jian Chenxue, hand over the interspatial ring to me, and I'll pass it to you. Looking at Yi Qinghan's sneer, Jian Chenxue's heart sank. However, in order to fight with Yi Qinghan quickly, she raised her delicate hand and connected with Yi Qinghan's fingers. As soon as the interspatial rings touched, a white light flashed. All the materials for the 7-foot heavy frenzied saber in Yi Qinghan's ring were transferred into Jian Chenxue's interspatial ring. Jian Chenxue subconsciously checked it. Her whole body trembled and she looked a little shocked. She looked at Qi Lianchen awkwardly and felt that things were out of her control. Although she didn't like Qi Lianchen, he was her most loyal follower after all. She didn't want to be cheated by Yi Qinghan. Although she was very confident and thought that she would win, what if she lost? Based on the materials for the 7-foot heavy frenzied saber in the interspatial ring, even if she sold Qi Lianchen's sword blade, she wouldn't be able to afford it. Even if Hua Chen joined in, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Isn't the bet too big? Jian Chenxue looked at Yi Qinghan speechlessly and had to remind him. It doesn't matter. He said that he has money and he's playing with his heart. These materials are nothing. I believe that senior brother Qi Lianchen can afford it, Yi Qinghan replied faintly. When everyone saw Jian Chenxue's ugly expression, they were all curious about what Yi Qinghan had bet to scare Jian Chenxue. What did he bet? Qi Lianchen said proudly. He knew that Yi Qinghan used to be a country bumpkin. How much could he bet? Would he not be able to afford it? Moreover, he would definitely lose. 400 caddies of purple gold cold iron, 15 caddies of red flame sand, 50 caddies of soft red gold? Jian Qinshue's eyes showed a hint of worry. Looking at Qi Lianchen and Huo Chen, she couldn't help but remind them, I don't recommend you to bet so much. If the senior uncles know about it, they will definitely be unhappy. Huo Chen and Qi Lianchen's expressions changed. The value of these 3 metals alone was definitely more than 100,000 taels of gold. What kind of figure would it be after 10 times? 1 million taels of gold. The price of 100 spiritual crystals. Qi Lianchen was rich. Relying on his identity as a second-grade weapon refiner, he never lacked money or elixirs. However, no matter how rich he was, he couldn't take 1 million taels of gold lightly. Huo Chen's breathing was a little rapid. He was not Qi Lianchen. It would be good if he could take out 50,000 taels of gold. If Jian Qinshui really lost, even if he sold his underwear, he wouldn't be able to afford the 500,000 taels of gold from Yi Qinghan. Now, if you can't accept it, you can say it in front of everyone. I believe that the senior brothers and sisters of the Sky Sword sect won't laugh at you. Of course, I believe that Jian Qinshui, the beauty, won't despise you for failing to show off. The most important thing is to say what you can, right? Yi Qinghan sneered coldly. Kikik, Qi Lianchen gritted his teeth in hatred. If he had to accept it alone, he really didn't have the courage. After all, everyone knew that Huo Chen was poor. However, if he didn't accept it, wouldn't he lose face in front of all the disciples of the sect? The key was that Jian Qinshui was right in front of him. Forget it. You can leave. This is a competition between Yi Qinghan and I. Jian Qinshui also knew that Qi Lianchen couldn't accept such a bet because he couldn't afford it. Looking at Qi Lianchen and Huo Chen's expressions, she felt even more disgusted and impatient. How can a man take back his words? Qi Lianchen was furious. It was absolutely impossible for him to lose face in front of Jian Qinshui. However, the more Jian Qinshui saw him puffing himself up at his own cost, the more disgusted she felt. A black line gradually appeared on her forehead, and the disgust in her eyes became more and more obvious. Jian Shisan, I know you're nearby. Don't you usually say that you like Qinshui? Don't you dare to believe that she can win now? Of course, I'll ridicule her face to face. If you're a man, stand out and accept this bet with me. Qi Lianchen gritted his teeth and shouted at the chief disciples. Qi Jianfeng, Mu Jianfeng, Jin Jianfeng, and the other chief disciples cursed in their hearts. At this time, he still wanted to drag them into the water. Wasn't this harming them? If it was 1-to-1, they would still be happy to do Jian Qinshui a favor. The key was 1 to 10, who could afford it? More importantly, it was not necessary at all. You don't believe that Qinshui will win. Qi Lianchen was flustered and exasperated. He could not control his emotions. Everyone cursed in their hearts. Fuck, if you believe that you will win, will you drag us down with you? Yi Qinghan revealed an evil smile at the corner of his mouth. Jian Qinshui glanced over and happened to see it. She felt a chill in her heart. You did it on purpose. Jian Qinshui gritted her teeth and said telepathically. So what? Do you think he will give up? Yi Qinghan disdained. This kind of childish youth would always pay a heavy price for the so-called love. Don't you want to borrow the crafting furnace? Why do you have to make the relationship so tense? Jian Qinshui looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and said telepathically again. I have a way to make him lend me the crafting furnace. However, if I win, I don't need you to lend me the crafting furnace. I want you to promise me one more thing. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and said telepathically. Don't go too far. I don't mind if you want to trick these idiots, but if you want to trick me, absolutely no way. Jian Qinshui immediately warned. Not confident? You admit defeat? Yi Qinghan provoked her. Jian Qinshui was a woman who never admitted defeat. How could she stand Yi Qinghan's provocation? She immediately said, Fine, I will fight you to the death today. As long as you beat me until I can't stand up, I will promise you anything. Don't make it sound so serious. I don't need you to do anything for me. Just be my servant for 2 months and take care of my food, clothing, and shelter for 2 months. Yi Qinghan said telepathically. It was not that Yi Qinghan fancied Jian Qinshue's beauty, but that he needed to refine weapons, perform closed-door training, and travel in the next 2 months. He needed a powerhouse to help him with many things. Meng Shi was too young, and Madame Wang had no cultivation. As for the unreliable and unprincipled parrot, he could not count on her. Therefore, he could only ask Jian Qinshu. Jian Qinshu looked at Yi Qinghan's clear and deep eyes, which were full of vicissitudes of life without any evil thoughts. Her Taoist heart could not help but tremble. She actually agreed for the first time, even though she knew that she was likely to lose today. However, under the provocation of Hua Chen and Qi Lianchen, the chief disciples of the Seven Peaks finally gritted their teeth and took out 100,000 taels of silver as their capital to participate in the bet. However, Qi Lianchen still accepted the bet of 300,000 taels of gold. Even if some people bet that Jian Qinshu would win, in case Jian Qinshu really lost, Qi Lianchen would not be able to spend money like water for 3 to 5 years. Chapter 36. There was a sea of people on the martial arts stage. More than 2,000 Sky Sword Sect disciples had all gathered. Finally, there were 3 to 5 people who had bet on Yi Qinghan's victory. However, the bets weren't very big. The highest bet was 20 true elemental dawn. Sun Er looked at Jian Qinshu and took out 10 true elemental pills and 1 blood blaze pill. She whispered, "Senior sister, can I bet on senior brother Yi to win?" Jian Qinshu was speechless. "Buy it, huh? You have good taste. Buy more. I guarantee that you will earn a lot." Yi Qinghan laughed. He wanted to laugh when he saw Jian Qinshu's deflated look. Sun Er quickly ran to Hua Chen and took out all her belongings. 30 true elemental pills, 3 blood blaze pills, and 300 taels of silver. This was her savings for several years. "Senior brother Hua, I bet on senior brother Yi to win," Sun Er said seriously. Hua Chen's mouth twitched. He wanted to say something but stopped. The anger in his eyes was self-evident. If Sun Er was not a disciple of Jade Maiden Peak, he would have slapped her. Hua Chen took Sun Er's bet. His heart sank to the bottom. His eyes were full of seriousness as he stared at Yi Qinghan and Jian Qinshu. "Senior sister Qinshu will win. Senior sister is mighty. Defeat him." The voices in the martial arts practice field were uniform. There was no need for others to guide them. This battle was not only related to the glory of the goddess but also involved a lot of bets. Everyone wanted Jian Qinshu to win. Jian Qinshu's blood boiled. Her aura rose and her face was full of pride. The sub-sword was locked in the mother sword. The sword within the sword was the hardest to defend. "In this battle, I represent the Sky Sword Sect disciples to fight with you. I can't lose," Jian Qinshu said confidently. "Even if you represent the whole universe to fight with me, you can't win. Make your move. I will make you satisfied," Yi Qinghan said casually, but in the eyes of others, he was extremely arrogant. "Defeat him. Senior sister Qinshu is mighty. Qinshu, I believe in you," Qi Lianchen said seriously. "Believe in your head. They really don't mind watching a show." Jian Qinshu was very annoyed. It was originally a battle to find a breakthrough, but now it had been forcefully changed into a battle of gambling. However, he could not criticize Yi Qinghan at this time. He could only forcefully attack him. The distance between Yi Qinghan and Jian Qinshu gradually widened. Their auras were increasing. Sword chi and saber radiance crisscrossed. It was as if they were on par with the god of war. This battle isn't just to defeat her. I also have to help her break through to the initial stage of the blood ignition realm. Only then will she be willing to help me sincerely for 2 months. Therefore, I can't use the frenzy saber art. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and decided to use the basic saber art. "Make your move," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. "Then I won't hold back." Jian Qinshu felt Yi Qinghan's strength and was no longer arrogant. She used her best move, the fairy sword technique. Whoosh! The sword radiance cut through the sky above the Sky Sword Sect. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Its figure moved like the stars, floating like an immortal. In an instant, at least a dozen sword shadows swept away all shackles and rushed in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was as still as a mountain. His battle robe was blown away by the sword aura. He flew backwards. When he saw the sword aura approaching his body, he raised his saber and attacked. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. Boom, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The basic saber art was wide open. Every strike was as heavy as 10,000 pounds. Although it looked like he had a big opening, his speed was fast enough to make up for it. His opponent had no way to get close. A loud sound rang out. The saber radiance and sword shadows collided. The aftershock rushed into the distance. The snow in the sky collapsed and rustled. The two figures retreated after one strike. Their footsteps shook the training ground. Whirlwind slash. After Yi Qinghan retreated 3 steps, he twisted the tip of his foot. Instead of retreating, he moved forward. His speed was even faster. His saber slashed out. It had the power to split heaven and earth. The saber radiance was dazzling. It gave people the illusion that it was tearing through the air. The thick murderous intent made Jian Chenxue tense up. She fought against Yi Qinghan with 120% caution. Everyone gasped. They did not doubt that if Jian Chenxue was careless, Yi Qinghan would kill her without mercy. This was not a competition. It was a final battle. Jade Maiden returning to heaven. Jian Chenxue's consciousness was tense. She was very careful. It was as if she was facing a real enemy. She was suppressing her potential. If she did not break through, she would die. Boom! The ear-piercing sound made everyone grit their teeth and frown. They retreated 30 meters away from the training ground. They did not dare to take on the aftershock. Boom! Shing, shing, shing. Their bodies were like steel. When their feet stepped on the stone floor, the hard stone floor was directly crushed. It could not withstand the strength of the two. They could only step back to relieve some of the pressure. Jian Chenxue was indeed the chief disciple of the Jade Maiden Peak. Her sword was like a dragon leaving the valley. It was smooth and powerful. She did not lack the temperament of a Jade Maiden. Stab! With a low sound, the Jade Maiden sword cut through the air and suddenly rushed towards Yi Qinghan's chest. Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly changed. He reminded her in a low voice, "Be careful. If you don't break through, don't blame me for killing you." Both of his hands held the hilt of the violent saber tightly. He used all of his strength to gather the violent saber. The true yuan on the saber light was sharp and crisscrossed. Open! The sound was like thunder, vigorous and powerful. The saber was like lightning, unstoppable. The tip of the saber collided with the tip of the sword. A sharp sound that could pierce through a powerful warrior's eardrum resounded through the sky. The disciples of the Sky Sword sect, who were dozens of meters away, all coughed out blood and flew backwards. They covered their ears and screamed. The Jade Maiden sword was forcefully split open from the tip by Yi Qinghan. However, the saber's aura did not change. It continued forward and chopped towards Jian Chenxue's head. Jian Chenxue's hair stood on end. She felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She felt that her body was wrapped in the aura of death. She, who had endured at least 100,000 pounds of force, coughed out blood and flew backwards. This attack had used up all of her true yuan. The web between her thumb and forefinger cracked. Blood dyed her white robe red. The heavy berserk saber was broken. However, the broken saber moved upwards and hooked towards Jian Chenxue's stomach. If it had hit, Jian Chenxue's stomach would have been cut open and she would have died on the spot. No one had thought that Yi Qinghan would change his move so quickly. Moreover, it was under the condition that the heavy berserk saber was broken. Qi Lianchen and the others gasped as their pupils shrank slightly. "It's over! My 300,000 gold taels." The first thing that came to Qi Lianchen's mind was not Jian Chenxue's life, but his own financial problems. Senior sister, be careful." The only one who was worried was Sun Er, who had bet on Yi Qinghan. Jian Chenxue was shrouded in the terrifying aura of death. She had almost lost her ability to resist. After the battle with Owl Warstar, even if Yi Qinghan released his full killing intent, he would still be able to crush a Blood Ignition Realm rookie. Am I going to die? Jian Chenxue was in despair. She had not thought that the mother-son Jade Lady Sword would be broken by Yi Qinghan's saber. There was not even a trace of Zhen Yuan left in her Qi Si. There was almost no chance for her to escape from Yi Qinghan's killing move. At this moment, Jian Chenxue finally understood how correct senior sister Yu's words were. She had not brought any danger to Yi Qinghan, but she had been killed by him in a few short moves without being able to fight back. Break! Yi Qinghan let out a deep roar, which woke Jian Chenxue up. She suddenly felt Yi Qinghan's Zhen Yuan rushing into her body through the broken saber. It was like lightning rushing into her limbs and bones. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed into her Qi Si. Jian Chenxue was terrified and in despair. Once her Qi Si was broken, she would be completely crippled. Even if she did not die, it would be 10,000 times more painful than death. However, after a breath, Jian Chenxue was not shocked but happy. This was because the Zhen Yuan that had broken into her body had actually broken the bottleneck of the middle stage of the blood ignition realm. It caused her dried-up Qi Si to burst out with boundless Zhen Yuan. The massive amount of Zhen Yuan followed Yi Qinghan's Zhen Yuan and smashed into the broken bottleneck. It was like an endless flood. Counterattack! Yi Qinghan pulled back his saber. His left hand suddenly punched out, directly hitting Jian Chenxue's chest. When his fist reached her chest, it suddenly turned into a palm and slapped the left side of her chest. It looked like Yi Qinghan was deliberately taking advantage of her, but in reality, a large amount of Zhen Yuan was rushing through her entire body through her thoracic spine meridian. Together with her own Zhen Yuan, she had instantly crushed the bottleneck. Jian Chenxue felt numb in her chest and her whole body trembled. She felt that her vision, combat power, and divine sense had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. Feeling Yi Qinghan's left hand still pressing on her chest, her face flushed red. She subconsciously attacked Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was not prepared and his palm hit the center of his shoulder. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan retreated more than 10 steps before he could stabilize his body. His face was pale. He took a deep breath and slowly adjusted his state of mind. At this moment, Qi Lianchen was overjoyed and shouted, "Chenxue won. Yi Qinghan lost. The competition between fellow disciples should end here." "That's right. Yi Qinghan lost." Hua Chen echoed, "Haha, we won. Senior sister Chenxue won." All the disciples echoed and cheered, hoping that Yi Qinghan would admit it like a man. Jian Shisan's mouth twitched slightly. He shook his head and left with his sword because he knew that Jian Chenxue had lost and had lost miserably. If it had been a fight to the death, Jian Chenxue would have been dead. Jian Chenxue felt the majestic power in her body at this moment. It was unprecedentedly strong. She was overjoyed and ignored the cheers outside. After a long time, she opened her eyes and looked at Yi Qinghan, who was adjusting his breath. Her eyes were full of gratitude and a warm current gushed out from her heart. It was as if she had seen her lover. Jian Chenxue quickly walked forward and took the initiative to support Yi Qinghan's arm. She asked softly, "Are you okay?" Everyone was stunned. They did not expect Jian Chenxue to have such a side to her. Didn't she win? Why did she want to show goodwill to Yi Qinghan? The cold wind blew and blew his hair back. Half of his face instantly conquered Jian Chenxue at such a close distance. The vicissitudes and arrogance in his eyes were no longer frivolous. It was as if he had experienced thousands of years and was full of stories, causing her to involuntarily sink into them. "I'm fine." Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He took the initiative to break free from Jian Chenxue's hand and maintained a distance. "Seems to have changed. Was that frivolity from before a disguise? Or is he pretending now?" Impossible, no one can pretend so well. Moreover, without experiencing some things, how can he fake such a look? Jian Chenxue's eyes were dull. It was as if a little rabbit was running around in her heart. Her chest heaved up and down. The palm print was very obvious, as if declaring sovereignty. The sacred land of the goddess had been occupied by the owner of the palm print. "Do you still want to fight?" Yi Qinghan asked faintly. "No. I lost. Even if I break through to the middle stage of the blood ignition realm, I don't have 100% confidence in defeating you," Jian Chenxue quickly shook her head and said, "What? Chenxue, you clearly won." Qi Lianqing was speechless. He wanted to question Jian Chenxue, but Jian Chenxue's sharp gaze made him feel as if he was being stared at by a supreme expert. He took 3 steps back and stopped talking. "That's right. Yi Qinghan, Chenxue clearly won against you. If you agree to the bet, you must accept your loss. Hand over the bet." Hua Chen said coldly. Chapter 37. Yi Qinghan looked at the crowd coldly. Winning or losing was not important to him. What mattered was life and death. In his eyes, the people of the Sky Sword sect were just ignorant children. "I've already lost. If senior brother Yi didn't show mercy, I would be dead. Can't you see?" Jian Chenxue scolded coldly. "Show mercy? You obviously wanted to take advantage of him, so you distracted him and gave him a chance to fight back. He lost. Everyone saw it. Chenxue, why are you defending him?" Qi Lianqing's eyes were burning with anger. How could he not be angry when his exclusive woman spoke for another man, and it involved 1,000,000 taels of gold? "I said he lost, so he lost. Qi Lianqing, you can't afford to lose, right? If you can't afford to lose, I believe senior brother Yi won't care about the materials." Jian Chenxue said coldly. "I can't afford to lose? Obviously, you did it on purpose. Jian Chenxue, I didn't expect that you would trap all the disciples of our sect for your little lover." Qi Lianqing was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He wanted to sow discord between Jian Chenxue and the others. "You're courting death?" Jian Chenxue clenched her fist and her qi exploded. Her strength had increased by more than 10 times, which was far beyond Qi Lianqing's. Yi Qinghan held Jian Chenxue's hand and shook his head, indicating that there was no need to reason with such people. The bigger the fist, the bigger the fist. Otherwise, black could be turned into white. Your cultivation should be almost the same as Jian Chenxue's. If you think Jian Chenxue did it on purpose, it means you can defeat me, right? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. "Of course. How can a bumpkin from a 9th-class family like you compare with the chief disciple of the Sky Sword sect?" Qi Lianqing said proudly. "Fi, a 9th-class bumpkin? Defeat you, it means I've defeated Jian Chenxue? Will you still admit it?" Yi Qinghan sneered. He wanted to make this bet true, but now he lacked the money and materials. If he could get 1,000,000 taels of gold, he could at least exchange it for some spiritual crystals and buy some materials to build a 5th-class super warrior for Mengxi. "What a joke. As long as you can defeat me, we'll admit that you've won. We'll pay you back in 3 days. Qi Lianqing said arrogantly. "Good, I like people like you who are bold and arrogant, but I'm even more arrogant than you. If you can take 3 of my punches and still stand up, I'll admit defeat and you can take the materials." Yi Qinghan's arrogance soared to the sky. He slowly took a few steps back and gestured for Qi Lianqing to enter the arena. He wants to defeat Qi Jianfeng's chief disciple, Qi Lianqing, with 3 punches? Did I hear that right? Haha, we're definitely going to win. Eldest senior apprentice brother is ranked 8th on the Jiangning County's top 10 elite ranking. Who dares to say they can defeat him in 3 moves? The disciples of the weapon and sword edge were arrogant, as if they had just witnessed Qi Lianqing beating Yi Qinghan to the ground. Qi Lianqing's face was livid. He had never been looked down upon like this. Even Jian Shisan, Sid Kuang, and Xin Yuanyu, who were the top 3 on the Jiangning County's elite ranking, did not dare to speak so arrogantly. Jian Chenxue's expression changed slightly. He frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. Looking at his arrogant and confident face, he gradually calmed down. However, he still warned, "Be careful. I'm not confident that I can defeat him in 3 moves. Moreover, you don't have a weapon now." "Humph, I don't need to use my sword to deal with an arrogant and ignorant person." Yi Qinghan said arrogantly. "You're courting death. Today, I'll fulfill your wish and let you, a frog at the bottom of a well, see what a young expert is like." Qi Lianqing came gracefully and pretended to be elegant, which attracted the applause of many disciples of the Sky Sword sect. Some of the disciples of the Jade Maiden Peak screamed, which made him even more arrogant. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists lightly and revealed a cold smile, waiting for his opponent to arrive at the arena. Get out! Yi Qinghan's calm words were filled with command and decisiveness. Jian Chenxue could not say anything more and could only quickly leave the arena. Can I attack now? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently with his hands behind his back. The two of them were 30 meters apart. Qi Lianchen said disdainfully, "Clown. Come, I'll let you see clearly what true strength is." Whoosh! The entire arena was filled with the figure of a person. They had different attacking postures, but each person's fist carried a terrifying force. It was like a wolf that wanted to devour all enemies. The first punch. Qi Lianchen was stunned. The entire martial arts practice field went silent. It was as if there was only this crazy figure left in the world. Fast, it was too fast. Boom! The iron fist smashed into Qi Lianchen's left shoulder. With a crisp crack, Qi Lianchen screamed and flew backward, coughing up blood. All the bones in his left arm were shattered and fell down powerlessly. Qi Lianchen, who was on the ground, waved his iron fan like a madman. From the depths of the iron fan, a 3-foot-long sword shot out. It was extremely sharp. If the enemy was not paying attention, it could instantly pierce through the enemy's body. Qi Lianchen attacked indiscriminately, hoping to seize the initiative. With him as the center, no one could get close within 3 meters. The sharp sword Qi shattered the arena. After a long time, he realized that Yi Qinghan did not attack. Instead, he stood with his arms crossed, dozens of meters away from him, looking at him as if he was looking at a fool. Despicable man! You sneak-attacked me! Qi Lianchen roared. Yi Qinghan, he had just asked if he could attack. Qi Lianchen arrogantly said that he wanted to show off his strength, but his left arm was destroyed. Now, he was calling Yi Qinghan a despicable man for sneak-attacking him. At this moment, even some people from Sky Sword sect were speechless. If they went along with Qi Lianchen now, wouldn't they be brainless? Despicable! How dare you sneak-attack big senior brother? No wonder you're the son of the selfish Yi Qin. Puchi, a shadow flashed by. Yi Qinghan's fist pierced through the throat of a disciple from Qijin sect. The disciple who had shouted earlier spat out blood into the sky. Before his body fell, he was already dead. Before anyone could react, Yi Qinghan had already returned to the training ground. His eyes were even more ferocious than a wolf's and sharper than an eagle's. The icy flames in his eyes carried an aura of disdain for all living things as he looked down on everyone. Whoever dares to scold me or insult my father will only have one ending. Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice was filled with killing intent, instantly intimidating more than 1,000 disciples of the Sky Sword sect. Even Jian Chenxue felt a chill run down his spine. He felt that the moment Yi Qinghan attacked, his body had stiffened and he couldn't move at all. Yi Chen was worthy of Yi Qinghan's respect. In order not to hurt his wife and children, he was willing to go into the depths of the lonely mountain alone to be tortured. Such a person deserved to die with dignity and respect. Some people's reverse scales should never be touched. How dare you kill a fellow disciple? Qi Lianchen's body trembled. He was also frightened by Yi Qinghan's killing intent. If that attack had been used on him, he wouldn't have been able to escape. So what if I did? Let the sect master or the peak leader of Qijin's sect punish me. As long as they have a reason. But it's time for you to take my second punch. Yi Qinghan's cold voice made the temperature of the entire martial arts practice field drop to 0 degrees. With a light step, he used the ethereal flying immortal's footwork to its peak. Heavenly Dragon Fist. Roar, a dragon's roar and a tiger's roar shook the Sky Sword sect. The 8 peak leaders came out personally. Looking at Yi Qinghan's disdainful attitude, the heavenly dragon behind him rushed out. It was as if it was real, and it dived down to the ground with a shocking pressure. Unexpectedly, no one dared to stop it. Qi Lianchen was scared out of his wits. He frantically waved the fan sword in his hand, covering the surroundings. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would attack him. At this moment, he could only defend and didn't have the slightest intention to attack. Break! Yi Qinghan directly pounced on Qi Lianchen without any fear. He stretched out his left hand and grabbed the fan sword in Qi Lianchen's hand. The The second-grade peak spiritual weapon was actually broken by him. Boom, once the heavenly dragon came out, who could compete with it? Flames appeared from the friction of the iron fist, and it fiercely hit Qi Lianshen's right rib. The bones shattered, and Qi Lianshen's body was smashed into a twisted shape. Qi Lianshen's body was like a kite with a broken string. His pupils shrank, and he fainted from the tearing pain. His body heavily hit the ground 10 meters away from the martial arts field. His body twitched for a while, and then he lost consciousness. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The master of Sky Sword didn't make a sound. The Peak Lord of Weapon and Sword Peak, the master of Sky Sword Sect, and Wang Shufei didn't say anything. They were all stunned by Yi Qinghan's madness and combat strength. After a long time, the peak leader of the Weapon Sword Sect, Qi Fantian, flew into a rage and pounced on Qi Lianshen crazily. After checking his pulse, he found that Qi Lianshen was still alive. He immediately turned to Yi Qinghan and cursed, "You bastard, how dare you hurt my son? I want you to die." Swish! Before Qi Fantian made a move, Yi Qinghan had already moved. He broke the shackles with a punch and performed the extreme divine dragon steps again. There wasn't even an afterimage, making it impossible for the opponent to defend. In less than half a breath's time, Yi Qinghan's fist landed on Qi Fantian's chest. After the punch landed, the fists fell like raindrops. Qi Fantian only had time to protect his head with his arms and let Yi Qinghan hit him. Xing xing xing, Qi Fantian retreated continuously. However, he was wearing the golden silk soft armor. It was a third-grade defensive spirit armor. At least 50% of Yi Qinghan's power was blocked, giving him a moment to catch his breath. Punches, kicks, elbows, knees, whips. Yi Qinghan's crazy attacks landed on every part of Qi Fantian's body except for his head. Even with the third-grade spirit armor protecting his body, he couldn't withstand such a horrifying attack. He cried out in pain and cursed continuously. But the more he cursed, the stronger Yi Qinghan's killing intent became. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." When Yi Qinghan was enraged, he was like a starving wolf. His fists were smashed by the recoil of the spirit armor and were bleeding profusely. But he continued to attack with all his might. He was at the pinnacle of the blood ignition realm. And he was wearing a third-grade spirit armor. Even Jian Ao didn't have such a protective spirit armor. And yet, he was being beaten up by Yi Qinghan so badly that he couldn't even fight back. "Yi Qinghan, stop it now. Are you crazy? He's your senior uncle." Jian Ao only reacted after a long time and shouted, "Qinghan, stop it now." Wang Shufei was scared out of his wits. Looking at Yi Qinghan hitting Qi Fantian like a madman, he seemed to have the intention to kill him. But Yi Qinghan's eyes were red. He allowed others to scold him, but they couldn't involve his parents. It wasn't just because of Yi Chen and Wang Shi. It was because of his parents who had died on the Warlord Star. Today, Qi Fantian had torn his reverse scale. He had to bear the brunt of Yi Qinghan's anger. Chapter 38. Seeing that Yi Qinghan had no intention of stopping, Jian Ao and the other two wanted to restrain Yi Qinghan. However, they were afraid that it would be difficult to explain to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion if they hurt him. Thus, they looked at each other and rushed forward together. "Get out of my way. I'll kill anyone who dares to approach the martial stage." Yi Qinghan kicked Yi Qinghan's stomach, sending him flying dozens of meters away. He heavily crashed into a rock, causing sand and rocks to fly everywhere. Then, he turned around and glared at Jian Ao and the others. His blood-red clothes fluttered in the wind, and blood splattered everywhere. Although most of the blood was from the third-grade spirit armor, it still looked extremely intimidating, like a crazy demon. "Yi Qinghan, this old man didn't want to be too heavy-handed because you're an honored guest of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. However, that doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want in the Sky Sword Sect. Do you still have the Sky Sword Sect in your eyes? Do you still have the Sky Sword Sect's laws?" Jian Ao shouted angrily. "I was forced to retaliate. I didn't violate the Sky Sword Sect's laws." Don't you think it's unfair for you to question me like this? Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Ao with a disdainful attitude. The cold flames in his eyes made one's scalp tingle. Yu Shiqia's expression changed slightly. She felt that Yi Qinghan was a lion that was about to explode, while they were only mortals. They could be burned to ashes by Yi Qinghan's anger at any time. Yi Qinghan, we're all disciples of the Sky Sword sect. We can discuss this matter. At the very least, you can let the elders of the enforcement peak come out and punish the disciples who violated the sect's laws. You have no right to enforce the law on your own. Yu Shiqia said in a deep voice. Wang Shufei's expression turned ugly. He knew that Yi Qinghan must have attacked out of anger. However, Yi Qinghan had indeed violated the sect's rules. There had never been such a vile incident in the martial stage. Since the establishment of the Sky Sword sect, there had never been a disciple who attacked a peak lord. Yi Qinghan could be considered an unprecedented act, breaking the Sky Sword sect's tradition. Everyone was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's crazy aura. None of the disciples dared to criticize him, for fear of the madman's revenge. Qi Fantian crawled up with difficulty. His face was pale and he kept coughing up blood. If not for the protection of the spirit armor, he would have definitely been beaten to death by Yi Qinghan. You bastard! How dare you attack your elders? Let's see if you can escape the punishment of the Heaven Sword sect by relying on your status as a VIP of the Spirit Treasure sect. Qi Fantian did not know whether he was dead or alive, and continued to curse. He even pulled out a sharp spirit sword, which was at least a third-grade spirit sword, and prepared to forcefully kill Yi Qinghan. A series of gloomy and cold laughter seemed to come from the depths of hell, causing people to shudder. The one who laughed was Yi Qinghan. At this moment, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, his killing intent shooting out in all directions, his ferocious gaze looking at Qi Fantian as if he was looking at a dead man. Jian Chenxue hurriedly rushed into the martial arts practice field and pulled Yi Qinghan back. She whispered, "You can't enforce the law on your own, or else you'll attract the Grand Elder. You're in the right now, but you'll be in the wrong if you continue." Artifact Fantian. Shut up for this old man. As a peak master of one of the other main peaks, you took the initiative to verbally attack a junior. What a scandal! Jian Ao scolded angrily. Jian Ao had to stop him to prevent Yi Qinghan from going berserk again. If Yi Qinghan attacked again and he was powerless to stop him, the Grand Elder would be drawn out, and even he, the sect master, would be punished. He hurt my son first, can I scold him? I'm an elder, but my words were a bit harsh. He disregarded the sect rules in public and the dignity of the elders. Sect master, please uphold justice. Qi Fantian shouted angrily. Sect master, martial uncles of the peak masters, please allow Chenxue to say something fair. Jian Chenxue took a step forward, emitting the dignity of the middle stage of the blood ignition realm, causing everyone to turn pale with fright. Jian Chenxue has broken through. She has become the #1 person in the younger generation of Jiangning County. Jian Ao and the others were shocked. They were happy, but also vigilant. After all, Jian Chenxue was from the Jade Maiden Peak, not a disciple of the other peaks. Martial concubine Yu was overjoyed, and her eyes were full of satisfaction. Go ahead. Jian Ao's face softened. He was not willing to offend such a genius disciple. Today was the day of the competition between senior brother Yi and I. I hoped that senior brother Ye's battle strength would put me in danger of death and force me to break through. However, senior brother Huochen and senior brother Qi Lianchen suddenly appeared and insisted on turning this friendly competition into an extremely dangerous competition. This was originally unimportant to promote everyone's glory and unity, but senior brother Yi successfully helped me break through and showed mercy. However, senior brother Qi Lianchen did not want to admit that I lost, and wanted to deny the bet, and took the initiative to provoke senior brother Yi. That's how the whole thing happened. Jian Chenxue hurriedly helped Yi Qinghan to get rid of the responsibility, and pushed all the blame to Qi Lianchen and Qi Fantian. Qi Fantian's face was livid, and he was extremely angry. This kind of naked accusation and merciless correction had ruined his reputation. Although these people were all witnesses, in his eyes, no one could blame Qi Jianfeng, let alone him and Qi Lianchen. Lord Sect Leader, no one wants to be called a bastard, let alone being accused and cursed for no reason. I can only say that the dead disciple deserved to die, but Senior Brother Yi should not deal with it on his own. However, Senior Brother Yi has just joined the Sky Sword sect and does not know the rules, so please punish him lightly. Jian Chenxue bowed slightly and said, I agree with Chenxue. If people of the same sect attack each other wantonly and involve their parents, how can there be friendship between the same sect? Looking at Qi Fantian's face, Martial Concubine Yu knew that the relationship between the Jade Maiden Peak and Qi Jianfeng could not be repaired, so she directly did Yi Qinghan a favor. What do you mean? Are you accusing me of Qi Jianfeng? Who knows if Jian Chenxue and Yi Qinghan colluded to cheat Lianchen? Qi Fantian shouted angrily and looked at Martial Concubine Yu and Jian Chenxue with hatred. He sneered coldly, Jian Chenxue, in any case, my son has liked you for more than 10 years. It's fine that you abandoned him after finding a new lover, but why did you harm him? Jian Chenxue's face turned purple, and she was extremely angry. She clenched her fists and wanted to punch this disrespectful old bastard to death. Qi Fantian, please pay attention to your words. If you want to fall out with me, I'll accompany you at any time. Don't think that you can talk nonsense just because you have a third-grade spiritual armor. Martial Concubine Yu's aura exploded, and she walked towards the martial arts practice field with her sword in hand. Junior Brother Qi, you've gone too far. Apologize to me immediately. Jian Ao's face also changed. Now, even if he was not wrong, he was wrong, and there was no chance for him to be biased. I won't apologize. Why should I apologize? Why don't you punish Yi Qinghan, this bastard? He killed his fellow disciples in front of everyone, injured his senior brother, and insulted his elders. He should be executed according to his crimes. Qi Lianchen thought that Jian Ao would definitely not dare to offend him because he was a third-grade blacksmith, so he said coldly, It seems that I've been too kind to you. You want to punish me, right? Then I'll fight you to the death today. Yi Qinghan's aura turned cold, and his majesty overflowed. It was as if an ancient expert had descended, and the pressure made everyone tremble in fear. Qi Fantian's face darkened. He actually felt that Yi Qinghan could break through his defensive spiritual armor. When facing someone of the same level, he believed that he would be invincible with his spiritual armor. However, when facing Yi Qinghan, who was at the early stage of the blood ignition realm, he had this feeling, and it made his killing intent grow stronger. Senior Brother Sect Master, you heard it. He has no respect for his elders, and even now he wants to kill me. Sect Master, please punish him. Qi Fantian sneered. Who do you think you are? Elders? In my eyes, you're just a pile of mud. If I want to kill you, it's as easy as waving my hand. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, and the murderous light in his eyes made people shudder. Shut up, all of you. You want to fight to the death, right? I'll fulfill your wish. I'll apply to the Grand Elder for a battle to the death between cultivators at the Blood Ignition Realm. Once the Grand Elder agrees, you won't be able to retreat even if you want to, Jian Ao berated angrily. The Blood Ignition Realm cultivators were the backbone of the Sky Sword sect, and they couldn't fight privately. They had to be approved by the Grand Elder. This was the rule, and Jian Ao couldn't change it. Once the Grand Elder agreed, this battle to the death would be unavoidable. Otherwise, they would all be killed by the Grand Elder. Disperse now. The Grand Elder will definitely come out of seclusion within 3 days. Jian Ao was impatient. Ever since Yi Qinghan appeared, he had been losing face time and time again. If he didn't completely suppress him, his position as the sect master wouldn't last long. Yi Qinghan glanced at Hua Chen and Qi Fantian and said coldly, Wait, the bet has already been made. Some people have accepted so many bets, so clear the bet for me. If it's not mine, I don't want a single cent. If it's mine, no one can deny it. Hua Chen's body trembled. Being stared at by Yi Qinghan was like being stared at by a poisonous snake. Hua Chen, are you going to deny the bet? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Hua Chen smiled bitterly. At this time, saying that in front of the sect master, wasn't he courting death? At this time, a young man who looked like a manservant walked into the martial arts field. He had a second-grade spirit sword on his back and was carrying a metal box. Many people recognized him. He was Sword 13's attendant sword boy. He didn't have a name, so everyone called him Attendant Sword. Attendant Sword has come under the master's order to deliver the bet. The master said that if you agree to the bet, you must accept the loss. Please accept these 100,000 gold notes. Sword 13 was straightforward and didn't drag it out. Instead, it aroused Yi Qinghan's good impression. He casually took the metal box and opened it. It was filled with 1,000 gold notes. Moreover, they were all from Spirit Treasure Bank, which could be exchanged anywhere on Owl Falling Star. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, "Then thank your master for me." After Attendant Sword left, Huo Chen was embarrassed and didn't speak anymore. He clenched his teeth and said, "I acknowledge the bet. Within 3 days I will pay off the bet. Here are more than 5,000 true elemental dawn and blood ignition dawn. The value, first, pay off the debts of Sun Air and those who bet on me." Yi Qinghan interrupted Huo Chen's words and directly said. Huo Chen's complexion slightly changed, but he didn't hesitate. Other than Sun Air's bets, the others didn't have much. After Sun Air took the principal, her assets instantly increased by 10 times. 300 true elemental dawn, 30 blood ignition dawn and 3,000 silver. There were also some people who took away more than 1,000 true elemental dawn and more than 100 blood ignition dawn, which made Huo Chen's heart ache. There were still a lot of true elemental dawn and blood ignition dawn left. The total value was about 10,000 gold. Yi Qinghan took all of them and coldly looked at the other head disciples of the main peak. "We will also hand over the money within 3 days. We will definitely not be late," a few head disciples quickly said. Finally, Yi Qinghan looked at Qi Fantian and the unconscious Qi Lianchen and said indifferently, "Qi Fantian, do you want to help your son or should I ask him?" Qi Lianchen's debt wasn't 100,000 gold, but 300,000 gold. Once it was paid off in one go, Qi Jianfeng would very likely decline. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.